2026 Covington City Hall or City Council meeting to order. Krista, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Soltis.
I'm here.
Councilmember Wagner.
Here.
Councilmember Hartsock.
Here.
Councilmember Hartjehausen.
Present.
Councilmember Reed. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Porter.
Here.
And Mayor Smith.
Here.
We have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. Would you all join me in pledge of allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Regan, do we have any changes to the agenda?
No changes, Mayor.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Okay.
Any opposed? And I'll just, at this moment, we've got a pretty big agenda tonight, so I would just encourage and ask people to stay on task and on point if we could, so we can get through it effectively and efficiently, but otherwise. Up next is public communication. Up first is the Chamber of Commerce update. Ms. Dana Newts. Hello. Good evening.
Oh, and it's just the right height. Okay. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I have about a page and a half, but I can get through it in 3 minutes-ish. Okay. So first of all, people are always asking about membership. So membership is steady this year. We've had a lot of interest from potential members at our monthly morning meetups and after hours events. We have 20 new members this year already. So far, we had 34 all of last year. So we are ahead of pace. We added 7 new members in April. And our most recent addition is Nothing Bundt Cake. So look for some fun announcements in terms of that. Advocacy, as you know, is a big part of what we do. I recently attended a town hall for the 47th district, and we've been partnering with other chambers and coalitions on advocacy. Last week, we spoke to Representative Chris Stearns at an Auburn Chamber event and the Washington State Secretary of Transportation at a Southeast Area Legislative Transportation Coalition to discuss the Highway 18 project. On Saturday at Makers Market, we co-hosted a Get Out the Vote booth with the Kent Chamber. And we're hoping this summer to do some listening sessions, to meet with local businesses to find out what their challenges are. So as candidates and representatives and legislators and electeds ask us what our business challenges are, we can say more than, you know, we haven't liked the legislation in the last couple of years. I need specific, tangible details that I can share. So we're excited to do that. Today, I spoke with Zenobia at the Kent Chamber, and we are planning to pull together our resources to do a candidate meet and greet specifically for the 47th and the 33rd. We may also fold in the South Sound Chambers of Commerce Legislative Coalition to do a meet and greet before the primary. And then after the primary, we will do a candidate forum for the general election. Makers Market. Who came to the Makers Market this weekend? Yay! Thank you so much for your support. In partnership with the city, this Makers Market was our 11th so far. We had about 75 vendors, including food vendors and several youth booths. We had great weather and good attendance. We want to thank our sponsors, including our presenting sponsor, Multicare, which really helped us support the event. Covington Rotary for handling parking, because nobody wants to do that. And it really helps us quite a bit. So thank you to Beth and your team. And then we had several board members, and then Keelana's husband and brother helped volunteer as well. A huge thank you, of course, to Keelana Temyosa. She is our admin and events coordinator. She's responsible for about 98% of that event. I just kind of show up and help promote it. She does a fantastic job. We got a lot of really good feedback from our vendors, including multiple vendors who said they did really well with sales. That's not true of everyone. Some did not have a great job with sales. We had a number of first-time vendors who appreciated the organization, communication, and easy load in and load out process that Keelana has fine-tuned over the years. We even had one guy who does 140 shows a year. This was his first chamber event, and he said our It was his first market event with us, and he said this was by far the best process he's experienced so far. So that was high praise. For those of you who weren't able to make it, we have two upcoming markets, Saturday, September 12th and Saturday, November 28th. The second one will be indoors. It will be on Small Business Saturday, right after Thanksgiving. You don't have to remember those. You don't have to write those down. You can go to our Facebook page and find the dates there. We will be opening applications for the September 12th market this Friday. At each market, we get a lot of people saying, when are you going to start, open things up for next month? And we're usually like about a month behind, but we're prepared this time. We don't want to miss out on any opportunities to sign up vendors who are feeling really good about this event. Ongoing events. Many of you know this, but I want to invite you to our ongoing events. We have a monthly morning meetup the first Thursday of each month. It's hosted typically from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. at a member location. They provide morning beverages and a nice treat or a snack. So we just show up and talk. It's really a fun event. We had one last week at Ensemble Ballet Theater. We also do Third Thursday happy hour every month, which is, Third Thursday, also at a member location. And we do quarterly luncheons. Our next one is Wednesday, June 17th. It is the one that we do jointly every year with Maple Valley Black Diamond Chamber. So that's probably our most popular one. We have at least 100 people. It's out at Rainfire Ranch, so that's always a good time. Special events. We have 3 ribbon cuttings coming up. This Friday at 4 p.m., Harborview Kids Dental and Orthodontics we're doing a grand opening and ribbon cutting just across the parking lot. In addition to the grand opening celebration, they've got kids activities, face painting, food, games, activities. So it'll be a good time. So please come out and help support a local business. We have 2 other ribbon cuttings coming up. Poke Northwest will be in sometime in June, and Covington Complete Dentistry is in late August. And then this year in September, we call it Member September. We're going to do a month-long membership and fundraising drive to help support our work year-long. Because we're a 501c6, not a 501c3, we're not eligible for some of the grants and other fundraising opportunities. So we're hoping this will help support our work throughout the year. So what's next? As if that wasn't enough, Ready, Set, Play is getting ready to kick off June 23rd and 24th at Covington Community Park. This is also done in partnership with the city of Covington, who originally started it. This will be our 11th year for the program. We typically, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, we typically have 20 to 25 local businesses have a brag tag stop. So the kids go around with their lanyard and they go to each of these businesses and do an activity. And once they do the activity, they get a brag tag to put on their lanyard. At the end of the summer, when they've collected them all, they come to City Hall with their lanyard, show it off, and they get a prize pack, which includes fun things like a cookie from Crumble Cookie and a donut from Legendary Donuts and swim passes to offset the donut and the cookie. So that's always a fun time. We also have a new partnership with the Covington Reporter, which will give us some additional visibility and also provide our members with some new member benefits and discounts on advertising packages. They've also promised to provide more coverage for the city of Covington. So we're helping provide that content and to point them in that direction when we've got news that we'd like to share. So challenges, it's not all, rainbows and puppies as much as I'd like it to be. We do have challenges. Right now, we're trying to figure out how to meet the needs of the business community, especially during challenging economic times, but we have limited resources too in terms of staffing, time, and funding. So that's always a balance in trying to figure out how to make everything work. But the most important thing I want to leave you with is that we've had a lot of successes this year. We've had a lot of momentum, a lot of excitement this year, and I'm very excited about the balance of the year and what's to come. I appreciate your support. Thank you for coming to events. Thank you for serving on our board and all the things that you do to help make Covington a great place. I appreciate you. Any questions?
Thank you. Yeah. Any questions? Is there any, do you do any data tracking to see what type of booths sell well and what ones don't to kind of replicate that, or maybe it's their position?
Those are really done kind of on an individual basis because each vendor tracks their own. I think I personally go to each booth to speak to each vendor. I know Jeff does as well. So we do get some feedback that way. I mean, that's qualitative feedback, not quantitative. Some of it's guesswork and some of it, there's certain things we know people like and certain things that they don't, but I don't want to
Yeah.
name names.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right, Dana, thank
Thank
you.
you.
It was a great event. Okay, up next, there's National Public Works Week proclamation. If you want to join me in front of the dais, please. Oh, sorry. Okay, we have a proclamation here recognizing Public Works Week. Whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Covington. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas the year 2026 marks the 66th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Now, therefore, we, the City Council of the City of Covington, do hereby proclaim May 17th through the 23rd, 2026 as National Public Works Week. And we encourage residents to recognize our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protect our community, health and safety, and advance the quality of life for all. Paul, I'm going to present this to you.
Awesome.
And if you have anything you'd like to say, yes, the time. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This year's National Public Works Week theme is rooted in service, powered by community. And that really reflects the public works is all about. Much of our work happens behind the scenes, but it supports daily life throughout the city. We appreciate this council's continued support for infrastructure, staff, and long-term planning, which helps us provide reliable service to our residents every day. Most importantly, Public Works is about people. We're proud to serve this community and grateful to work in a city that values collaboration and support. So, thank you.
Yep. Stay up there, Bob. Yes, stay here. Can't get out. Okay, bring there and hold up.
Okay, scooch in a little bit.
Yep.
1, 2, 3. It's a good looking.
Yeah.
One, all we needed.
Okay.
Thanks, buddy.
I'm okay. Okay. We are now up to the first public comment period. The speakers will state their name, organization, and whether they are a Covington resident. Comments are directed to the city council and not the audience or staff. Comments are to be related to city business. Comments are not intended for conversation or debate and are limited to 4 minutes per speaker. For attendees participating by Zoom, click the raise hand button. For attendees participating by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand. Once the city grants you permission to speak, press unmute in Zoom or dial *6 to unmute by phone. And I have a couple of people here sign on. Dana, you're signing to speak, but I assume that was just now, yeah. And Bering, she was, I've got Bearing, Sinicki.
Yeah.
Oh, you're ready. Okay. Great. Welcome. Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Bearing Shinitzky. I grew up here in Covington since 1995. I grew up in the parks in Jenkins Creek. I went to Jenkins Creek Elementary. I know everyone throughout my Facebook, through the community, but I've only recently gotten involved with some of the city council agenda minutes and can kind of been reviewing some of them recently. And my end goal is, of course, saving Jenkins Creek Park. And I understand you guys have the east alignment and the west alignment. I'm asking that you guys forfeit the west alignment. The east alignment is enough to connect Lake Point and Founders Park and all your vested people or whatever. I'm just asking that you consider it. That is a beautiful place. The original map of Covington, the original people who bought it, they only noted Jenkins Prairie because it's an actual ecosystem. It's a beautiful place. Think 10 years in a line, like Jenkins Creek Elementary, maybe a reform with school could incorporate the children into that park. We need to preserve that. Besides the point about tonight, went a little off script. So I'm asking that consent agenda number 2, the right-of-way designation stormwater covenant for Station by Vintage, file number LU 19-0013. I'm formally requesting that the council pull item 2 from the consent agenda tonight so it can be openly discussed. If the city signs the blank real estate excise tax affidavit located on page 22 of tonight's packet, Covington is legally absorbing a compromised right-of-way stormwater drainage system for $0, much like how they gained Jenkins Creek Park originally in 1984, $0. I have copies of internal project communications from 2022, which brought me to tonight. These public records indicate significant unresolved survey and boundary discrepancies that occurred during the developer's construction phase. By passing this tonight, the city is buying that discrepancy and bearing it. You guys uploaded 1,300 pages over the weekend. That needs peer review. It does. Because of the severity of the liability shift, I have formally submitted tonight's packet along with 2022 survey emails to FutureWise, Puget Sound, Soundkeeper Alliance, and other outlets regarding the Growth Management Act and Clean Water Act compliance. I urge City Council, do not sign this blind. Do not put your names on it. Think about it. Think about your future. Pull item 2 from the consent agenda, mandate an independent third-party audit of the right-of-way boundaries and the stormwater lines before you force the taxpayers to absorb this financial risk. Have all the documents. I've submitted them to the city clerk. Let the public record show the city council was informed of these liability discrepancies prior to your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the council chambers that would like to address the council at this time? Anyone online? Don't see any hands raised. Okay. So we'll close that public comment period. There'll be a second public comment period at the end of near the end of the agenda. So that does bring us up to the consent agenda. Council like to take action? Yeah.
I would like to remove item 2 based on public feedback so that we have time to understand the information as presented.
Yeah. Is there a second?
Happy
need
to
it?
second that.
It's been moved and seconded to remove consent agenda item 2 that would authorize the city manager to sign a right-of-way dedication deed, declaration of storm, water covenant, and tree maintenance agreement for Station by Vintage. File number LU 19-0013. Any discussion?
Mayor,
No.
can you indicate which new business item that will be?
I'm under the impression we would pull it for a future meeting.
We would pull that for tonight for discussion.
Can we pull it for a future meeting?
We can, let me figure out the
Yeah.
timeline of it
Yeah.
though. Is there time restrictions on this? Okay, it'll delay closing the project. This is a typical standard thing we do with every project we have in the city. I would suggest we do it tonight.
I would say, given the feedback we've gotten and probably the amount of material to go through, we haven't even had time to look at what's been submitted. I don't think.
I would agree.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm
probably
gonna get
can,
more than
right?
5 minutes
Yeah, okay.
to understand what
What
was
the
heard
concerns are.
versus the report from staff.
So, Mayor, if I may step in, what I suggest doing here this evening is adding it to new business because that's what happens when you pull it from consent agenda. And then when that agenda item comes up, council can make a motion to move it to another
Okay,
date if it so chooses, but that would require a majority of council.
okay. Okay, so we'll move it to new business item. Let's do number 1 to just get it. So, do I need?
Can we, Celine, do you want to go ahead and suggest?
If I could just suggest to the council, if the concern is the right-of-way dedication and not the stormwater or the tree easement requirements, that there's 3 documents before you tonight. If it's possible to move any of those forward would be great. And then whatever the one issue is, I think it was the right-of-way dedication. Happy to talk to that as needed.
Again, I won't speak for the council. I don't know what the concerns are and what the amount of information and feedback we've been given. So again, I wouldn't feel good commenting or voting on something that I don't even know what the concerns are. So do I need to amend that motion then to say we're, Mark? Yeah, go ahead.
No, you don't need to make any amendment here. All you need to do is add it and renumber or add it as the last agenda item so we don't have to renumber the agenda.
Okay. All right, we'll leave it as number 10 then. Okay, so all those in favor of pulling item C2 from the consent agenda and adding it to as number 10 under new business item, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve the amended consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the amended consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now we're up to our public hearing. Public hearing to receive testimony on the proposed 2027-2032 6-year transportation improvement program. Bob Linsco, you're up.
One second. Mr. Mayor and Council, sorry. Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you for allowing me this opportunity. This evening, I will be presenting a draft of the 2027 to 2032 Transportation Improvement Plan. During this time, we'd like to share with you the progress on last year's transportation plan, and we'd like to give you the opportunity to provide feedback or make changes. In agenda item 1, attachment 2 of your packets, you will see the draft of the 6-year transportation improvement plan map. This draft map should look quite familiar. It provides a quick visualization to transportation needs within the city. In agenda item 1, attachment 1 of your packets, a summary of the 6-year TIP can be found. The proposed draft prioritization list has slightly changed this year and includes a new pedestrian improvements projects. While our Jenkins Creek project fell off the tip, we have remaining work, which includes the installation of a fish passable culvert and driveway paving. Paving and striping of the Lake Point Boulevard CIP portion has been completed as well. And community development and the developer are negotiating road opening dates for the Covington connector. We were awarded around $5 million in transportation improvement board funds for right-of-way and construction of Southeast 256. We received a Public Works Board loan funding at $6,155,145. We received a King County flood reduction grant in the amount of $1 million, and recently we applied for $2 more million with the King County flood reduction program. As far as 516 and 185th to 192nd goes, the project's proceeding steadily, approaching 80% design, and right-of-way is ongoing. Our SR 516 and Covington Way project design is approaching 60%, and we're currently seeking funding to complete design. Our new addition to our 6-year tip this year is our pedestrian safety improvements project 1 and 2. Paved pedestrian paths along 180th Avenue Southeast and the Timber Lane neighborhood. The remaining attachments in your packet include the remaining projects and their descriptions. In the interest of time, I could refrain from going through each project, and I could open it up to questions and guidance. I could also provide you with any project updates at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Bob? Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Quick question about the pedestrian safety improvements that have been added. It looks like cost driven by grant funding availability, and I think I saw on that quick slide that grants have been.
Yeah, we've applied for the Timber Lane grants with Safe Routes to School.
Okay.
And citywide safety. And then for 180th Avenue Southeast, the Transportation Improvement Board recommended that we apply to put that sidewalk to Crestwood Elementary.
Okay. So this would be the Timber Lane improvement would be what then specifically?
Gosh, there's like 4 locations. It's the western side of Timber Lane Way. I think there's a southern side of Timber Lane Boulevard. And then there's a section on 194th. And then the 4th section, I think, is right in front of the clubhouse there.
Like sidewalk improvements?
Yeah, pedestrian paths. Yeah.
Okay, because I know the sidewalks are a mess there and we've talked about this before. So I wasn't sure if this was linked to that because I thought that the current status of any attempt to improve sidewalks there within HOA was still residing with the HOA to take action.
Recently, I spoke with Transportation Improvement Board and they recommend we go after funding and then we get a sidewalk easement on
Gotcha.
HOA.
Okay, that's great. Great news. Thank you.
Yeah, so just to clarify a little bit, if I may.
It's Don. Yeah. Go ahead, Don.
Thanks. So yes, just right there at the end, what the whole purpose is that we're hoping those same things we've been talking about with that walkway is to, it's still currently owned by the HOA. So we're going in with that information and trying to seek funding, saying, hey, this is where this is the status of it. And if we can get funding to do that, then this is that next step of us trying to get that.
Okay, great. I very much appreciate it. We get a lot of feedback from residents about the sidewalks. And as we know, since we pick up litter there, they're large chunks that are unwalkable. So thank you. That's great.
You're welcome.
Any other question? Okay. So tonight we have a public hearing to receive testimony from the public regarding proposed 2027-2028 2032 6-year transportation improvement program. This being the date set, the proper notices have been posted and published in accordance with state law. The public hearing is hereby declared open. Got here, Bob will provide the staff report for this item. Sounds like you already did.
What's that?
Says, you'll provide the staff report for this item, or no? Is there anyone else, Regan? Bob just gave it.
He just did.
Yeah. Okay, so the ground rules for public comment during the public hearing are as follows. When your name is called, step up to the microphone, give your name and state whether you are a resident of the city of Covington. Please limit your comments to 4 minutes. The city clerk will set the timer that will go off when your time is up. When the timer goes off, please wind up promptly. We don't have anyone signed up to speak at the public hearing, but I will open it up to anyone in the council chambers that would like to address the council on this public hearing item. Is there anyone online? I don't see any hands raised. Does the council want any additional, you want to provide any additional comments or direction to Bob on this? No? Okay, then I declare this public hearing closed. I don't think there's any additional deliberation. We kind of mentioned that already. But is there anything else you need from us on this, Regan?
Nope.
Okay, great. Okay, well, we'll move on now to new business. We are up to new business item number 1. We've got several of these tonight. Introduction and overview of a franchise agreement for Hyperfiber of Washington, LLC, DBA Ripple Fiber, city file number PW 26-006. Selena.
Hi, good evening, council and mayor. Tonight, I'm going to give you a presentation. As you see in the agenda, there's multiple fiber applications on there. I'm going to try not to repeat everything each time for the record. So I just want the record to show that what I'm saying for this first one is a pretty similar explanation for the other ones. And there are some nuances for the other 2 that I will speak directly to. So this is my bigger presentation for all 3 of them, if that's acceptable to the council. Okay, great. Thank you. So tonight, I just want to also take a minute to introduce Mitzi. She is the applicant and she's the Director of Government Affairs from Hyperfiber and can be available if there's any direct questions that the council has for that franchisees. So similar to as we've been moving through these, we have a standard franchise agreement in the city of Covington. Hyperfiber chose to use that standard franchise agreement. So there was no major edits that were needed other than adding their name and their project file number to that application. That franchise, obviously, we're reviewing these 2 times before with the council. So the first one's kind of the open reading and then the second one is on the consent agenda. The franchise agreement basically just gives permission to use the public right-of-way. It's not a land use approval and it's not a construction permit. So it doesn't guarantee that these fibers are going to build out here and it doesn't give any private property rights. I know we've been dealing with that. I've been working very hard and diligently to make that very clear to our franchisees and we'll continue to do that. Private property rights are separate from a franchise agreement and anyone in the public has the right to handle their own private property when it comes to any type of utility, not just fiber, entering their property. The construction of these fiber improvements will still require separate permits from the city. They'll get right-of-way use permits. There'll be reviews, and then there's inspections that go along with that. And really just the gist of how we function is that all utilities obtain a franchise agreement. And why that's important is because that provides it's kind of like a contract, right? So we have basic rules and standards within the city of Covington for how anybody, developer, ourselves, franchisees operate in the public right-of-way. The franchise really just expands that to how we're going to operate in that space. That goes a little bit further than what's in our design and construction standards and really condenses that into this agreement, right? The franchise is a 10-year franchise with an automatic 5-year renewal. Again, they still have to go through those processes. At the end of the day, the provider is responsible for restoration, relocation for public projects. So if we come in after something and there are fibers in our way or there are utilities in our way, there's procedures within that franchise agreement that discuss how we work together to get those utilities moved. Excuse me. And then there's also rules, well, I shouldn't say rules, but conditions in the franchise around, costs and impacts related to the construction of those, that infrastructure. So in just kind of in summary, this is a right-of-way management decision. It's not a service endorsement saying that we will take one service over another, or that we're promoting one service over another. The franchise just provides that framework for oversight. It's that protection of the public infrastructure, and it provides opportunity and choice. Couple particular items that I do want to talk about because they continue to come up. The first question I'm hearing consistently is, do we have to allow these, right? Like, do we have to approve a franchise? So how this works is that under Washington law, cities have the authority to regulate and require franchise agreements for telecommunications and fiber facilities. And the city's authority primarily relates to the management of the right-of-way. So that's your permitting, your construction standards, safety, coordination, which are all addressed through that franchise agreement, as well as our permitting structure. At the same time, federal and state law puts important limits on the city's ability to deny access to telecommunication providers. Under federal law, local governments may not prohibit or have the effect of prohibiting the ability of an entity to provide telecommunication services. Federal law further preempts conflicting state or local regulations, which basically require that you can't make it hard for someone to come in to your city. And that is in the United States Code section. That's under removal of barriers to entry. And then similarly, Washington law prohibits cities from adopting or enforcing regulations that unreasonably deny the use of right-of-way. Again, it gets to that barriers of entry. This applies to the installation, the maintenance, and the repair of those facilities, and those are on the RCWs. And so what the short answer is, you as the council and the city can regulate what occurs in that right-of-way, but there's layers of various laws that prohibit us from being arbitrary and capricious about who gets to use that space. And so while we retain the authority to regulate the placement, we cannot conflict with those state and federal laws, in short. So if the applicant meets the city's established franchise requirements, the applicable standards, it's really difficult to support a denial. That denial would also need to avoid being, as I said earlier, arbitrary and capricious, and supported by clear legal and factual basis. So just saying we have too many, or we don't like how they're operating, or I don't know who they are, those aren't going to have standing, in a denial scenario. Does that help give some context around, do we have to approve? Okay. The second theme that we're seeing come up now that these are starting to come out is really around the no cut, like what happens to roads that are already paved. We have brand new paved roads, and this seems to be the area that not just our fiber utilities, but every utility is wanting to come through. PSE, King County, there's a lot of utilities coming to this area of the city, which also makes sense because it's our older part of the city. There's a lot of infrastructure upgrades that are also necessary. So we understand that this area of the city has been hit quite a bit the last few years. And I completely understand the council's concerns regarding the repeated construction activity. It does create neighborhood impacts. Solicitation isn't something that everybody enjoys, especially when they're going to get potentially hit with multiple providers. I think we can all just acknowledge that that might be an inconvenience or something that folks don't like. While the city has limited authority to prevent them from doing that, We can regulate how they work in the right of way through our permitting, through the franchise agreement criteria. And also, they're required to obtain peddler's permits. So they have to come in and meet those requirements of our peddler's permits. They have to show that they've been authorized by the city. Those get reviewed by the police department. So folks that come door to door will have run through Adam's database. And we've been informing all of our franchisees that that's a really important first step before we go solicitate. So just know that staff is aware of that communication. As far as the beautiful streets that are brand new paved, and there's a chance that we could have multiple businesses or franchisees coming in there. The city has what's called a no cut rule. And that says once a street is paved, it cannot be cut into for 5 years. So we use Timberlane as the example, right? Brand new paved, it was paved a couple weeks ago. We express that to the franchisee and we say, you can't cut that roadway. So that franchisee has a couple business decisions that they themselves have to make for their business. They can choose to cut into the road and know that they're gonna have to pave intersection to intersection full width, grind and overlay. It's basically another brand new road. That clock starts over, okay? They could make a business decision to go up on the side and not cut into the street. They could make a business decision to wait the 5 years, or they could make a decision that that's not an area they're ready to go into. Those are businesses' decisions on the private utility side. Now, if they choose to cut that roadway, Dawn nor I have the authority to say you can. That's actually a council directive. So if they want to cut into that roadway and they want anything less than the repave, the full repave, they have to come and ask you as the council for that. And so there's, like, I like to think of them as gates, and you have to get through the gate 1 is your franchise, gate 2 is your permits, gate 3 is your peddlers, gate 4 is what is happening in the right of way, right, where we have the authority for restoration. And then obviously inspections and making sure that we get back, you know, the roadway in the shape that we allowed them to work within, the restoration. It's a lot of information I've come at you all with, but I think those are the main themes that I'm hearing. And I'm just curious if the council has any specific questions or if there's any other themes I might have missed that you want to discuss.
I think we're gonna have a few. So let me start down here. Christina, go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Selena. That was an excellent presentation. Something that just popped in my mind, as we're not allowed to regulate who and when, could we regulate as a city how many franchisees are operating within the city at any one given time? Is that something that could fall under the scope or like just under that umbrella where it's not preventing, however, we now have a regulation where there's X number of franchisees that could be working within city limits at the same time?
No. That's like saying we could have one home builder at a time.
So you can have 12 and they could all be working.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
There is a limit of space though.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
that's kind of the limitation on that.
Sure.
Okay.
And they're gonna have their own competitions amongst each other, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, we're not saying because one came in, the others won't, but they themselves have to evaluate the infrastructure and the situation. And that's just business that we don't, the city's, you know, that's private business decision making.
Okay, so I'm also understanding that perhaps everybody doesn't want a tiny little chunk, but okay, that's just me thinking forward. Thank you. I'll have more questions later.
Any other questions, Christine?
Maybe later.
Okay.
No,
Any, no?
Well, I don't want to think that we had it on the.
Okay,
All right.
Debbie?
Thank you. So on the no cut policy, there's the exception is that if they want to make a cut, they can, but they have to repave intersection to intersection. Is that
Full
correct?
width, grind and overlay.
Okay,
If the road is less than 5
If
years
it's-
old.
Yeah,
If it's older than
Yeah.
that, they just have to patch
They have to
the
patch it.
trench.
And I will say, and I just want to add, Bob just whispered to me that one of the other options they have to go into the right of way is to bore, which would be going under the road and not cutting it. So for areas that, let's say we have older streets and, you know, like once we start to cut into them, they kind of can ravel and then patches don't look so great. The city reserves the right through the restoration authority that we have in that right of way to go work with that, provide that utility and say, you know, your little patch isn't going to be sufficient for the travel lane or how this road is going to function. And we might work with them individually to maybe get a larger patch or a better patch. Most particularly, actually, we see this in development the most, is that they'll do one cut for water, one cut for sewer, and all of a sudden you've got these stripes of cuts. And we try to work with all the developers, including the franchise, to say, well, can you just pave it as one big patch and not individual patches? And right now, because these are so new and there's a lot of them coming in, our construction inspectors, our planner, and I think someone from Public Works is generally going and walking each route with them to talk about restoration.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Deb?
No,
No?
that was it.
Any others down there? Yeah, no? Yeah, I'll go Beth and then,
Yeah,
okay,
that's fine.
we'll go down. Go ahead, Beth.
So thank you so much for the presentation. And I know that there's been a lot of, we've communicated back and forth about those issues. So I appreciate you following up and giving us a very clear guidelines of what we can and cannot do. Now I am going to just ask again because on advocating for people living in their homes, coming home from a hard day's work and wanting to spend some time and repose in their neighborhoods and having to potentially have construction years and years after years. And so, not to say it would be like that, but at some point, has there been any talk at the federal level of like how many franchises do we need in a city to provide service to our residents and to provide business opportunities for people who have fiber optics?
I can't speak to the federal level. Mark might have something, but it can add on to this or correct me. But in the Telecommunications Act, right, and the Communications Act, it's written very much that you can't create hurdles. You can't deny the entry of anyone providing those telecommunications, right? So I think assumption wise, I'll just say that it's actually the opposite. They're saying you can't have barriers and therefore let the market determine, let those businesses determine, those franchisees determine what works for them and what doesn't.
And did they give any reasoning why they feel like there's a need for unlimited number? Do we know? I mean, that's kind
Mark,
of
I don't know if you want to speak to that. I think it's just emerging technology too.
okay.
Similar to
just-
what we saw with wireless, but Mark, go ahead.
Just briefly, it's been a long-standing lobbying effort through the telecommunications companies to, excuse me, to establish what the guardrails are for cities and states and counties and local governments and what they can and can't do. This has been in place for many, many decades. And so this isn't a new requirement that cities defer to federal policies or to allowing telecommunications companies to enter the right of way. It's still very clear that we can regulate so long as we're not being overly prohibitive or creating regulations that would have the effect of prohibiting telecommunications franchises or fiber franchises for that matter. So this has been the trend for probably 30 years for these kinds of franchises, possibly more. So I'm not aware of any discussion about trying to limit that, except for potentially from other kinds of lobbying groups who have different interests. But that's pure speculation on my part.
Sure. Thank you, Mark.
Any other questions? Riley?
Yeah, this is kind of on the same topic, but when it comes to limiting the time of construction on a certain road, I know there's a rule that if within 5 years it's been paved, that it needs to be paved from end to end of the road. Is there any way we can regulate, like, if it's been repaved within the last 2 years, you can't tear it up. We need to give some relief to the people that live on those streets, and maybe a duration of time where, okay, they just got done with construction, we're not doing construction for 2 more years, and then we can resume.
I mean, the council can amend the no cut regulations, as you would, but, from where I sit, and I would just say cautionary, that would apply to us, that would apply to every utility. So if water needed to upgrade, they wouldn't be able to do that. If sewer needed to upgrade, they wouldn't be able to do it. I think it's really important to understand that those folks in the right of way are, while they're different, the rules around the right of way apply to all. So what you do for one, you do for all. So I get what you're saying around that inconvenience, right? But I also like to think of it too around development. We have some some neighborhoods where there's 5 or 6 subdivisions going on. We can't go in and tell them that, well, you can only do one subdivision in this neighborhood because it's an inconvenience of construction. The right of way is kind of the same thing. And so it gets into it. Obviously, the council can choose to make those choices, but as staff, I would probably give you some pros and cons around that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Rod? No? Okay, I'm gonna go to Christina and back to you.
Sure.
Christina.
Can you explain to me in Selena terms or Regan terms? Because I'm not going to do a good job of it. My understanding is that if we deny the franchise, these franchisees, no longer franchisees, these companies can now go through different channels and apply for the same thing. And it'll just be a different channel, different contract, where my understanding is we now actually lose that authority that we have within the franchise. Can you speak to that?
I'm going to let the attorney speak to that. He kindly raised his hand.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for the question, council member. If there is any discussion of denying any of these franchises, I would suggest that we do that offline in a different circumstance. And I would suggest going into an executive session if you want to have any discussion about that kind of potential issue.
Mark,
Was that your question? Yeah.
Like theoretically,
If they
what
didn't
happened?
come in through a franchise, could they come another way?
I'm not aware of another way that they would come in other than through a franchise.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, maybe I
Yeah, this is kind of different than maybe what we've talked about with other, like the energy utilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to say that we should deny anything. I
Right.
just wanted to elevate the fact that it would actually probably be smarter to go through a franchise.
Yeah, and the one thing that I will just say is it's a process. This is a council decision, which is, there's appeal processes and things like that could go into play there. Again, going back to that arbitrary and capricious statement, having factual, identifiable reasons for the denial.
Any other questions? No? Okay, Beth.
So one thing I would just say, and I'm just going to throw this out there, I think it's a little bit different when you have failing infrastructure that needs to be replaced versus brand new infrastructure. I mean, providing services to residents needs to happen, right? Everybody wants choices. We want to make sure everything's safe and secure. And and I'm not saying that we should or shouldn't. I'm not voting. I'm just expressing that there is a difference, and there's also a difference when your plumbing all of a sudden doesn't work, it needs to get fixed versus everything is fine. So I don't know if we ever come to that decision to make a no-cut rule or what leniency we may have in the future to make any kind of decisions on that. Or what case could be made to make sure that we're doing the right thing for a balanced approach to this kind of a thing for residents, businesses in the city as well. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Any other questions? I know we got 2 more of these, but so my comments are just would apply to those others as well. And I just wanted to just clarify or just reconfirm. So we can't require that if we were to approve them, this cable go in, on a schedule. We can't say you're first, you're second, so just so we're clear on that. And it sounds like.
I'm shaking my head no.
Yeah, okay. And it also sounds like we can't require that they coordinate on their development of these as well, these franchisees.
So we can't require it,
Right.
right? But what we have done, what we continue to do is inform them of each other's work, right? Because we are the central hub, we see the full spectrum. Similarly to before that road got paved, we informed the franchisee that was ahead and early, go call that developer, right? So because we at the city can see the scope and the system of those different right of way, we do that. Now, whether they choose to
Right.
take that advice is their business decision.
Okay. I guess I have a couple, but what I would say in that instance, it would behoove the franchisees to communicate and coordinate with each other if you want to sell your service in the city, I guess. So like I said, can't make them, but I would highly recommend you coordinate with each other.
Yeah.
Especially since we got, what's this, 3 today and 1 already. So that's at least 4. So.
And Mayor, that's an excellent point, and we'll continue to do that. And we're redoing some of our forms, and I think you're actually giving me some fodder of like, maybe that's a bullet point on that.
Perfect.
The other thing I'll just mention that if you read into the records, you'll see that other utilities also commented on these franchisees, and all of those go to the franchisee so that they are aware. So that open communication occurs through our noticing process as well.
Okay. And then just to clarify, I think I saw it in there, but the right of way includes putting infrastructure and materials underground, but it also includes putting things on poles as well. And can they erect poles as well?
That's an excellent question. The short answer is no, you cannot erect new poles. You can go on poles that are existing. You cannot erect a new pole. As you know, most of Covington is underground. And then at any such point that those poles have to go underground, again, in the franchise, there's requirements around their responsibility to ensure that utility gets underground, whether that's by us or a private developer doing that improvement.
And then just finally, curious question, the franchise agreement is for 10 years, can be automatically renewed for 5. What happens at the end of 15? Whose cable is that after 15 years?
That is also a great question. I can't speak to that. I do know that, when we did, I'll just use Forge Fiber as an example. They had a franchise as an AT&T, and then over time, their conglomerates change and their LLCs change and their parent and sub-parent groups change. And then if that occurs, then they come in and get that new franchise. So the idea is that people consolidate or expand
Or go out of business?
Yeah, I don't know. Don, do you want to add anything to that in your experience? Putting you on the spot.
I would, if I understand correctly, I would say that typically they still they own that. And I thought that there's some pieces in there as far as removal and things along those lines. If the franchise were to end and things along those lines, but Mark.
Yeah.
I'm happy to speak to that. In section 14 of all the franchise agreements, it discusses what happens if there's an abandonment of the franchisee's telecommunications network, and it has specific provisions discussing what happens if there's a failure to remove. And ultimately, if the city were forced to remove that and the franchisee abandoned them, the city would then go after the franchisee for any costs that were required, any cost that the city took on during the process of abating or removing those abandoned facilities.
Thank you for finding that quickly, Mark.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments on this item? No? Okay. Do you need anything else from us, Selena, on this one?
Mayor, if I could just make one clarifying point too, your last comment about what happens after 15 years.
Yeah.
If they abandon it, Mark answered that, but if they want, they can renew it and they would go through the same process.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, if there's no other discussion on that, we'll go into new business item number 2, which is strikingly similar to what we just talked about. Introduction and overview of a franchise agreement with Zipley Fiber Pacific LLC, DBA Zipley Fiber, city file number PW 25049. Selena, you're up.
I just want to take a moment and introduce Brett Galley. Gailey. I don't know if he's been promoted. I see Mason's trying to promote him here. Oh, there he is. Great. Hey, Brett. Brett is the representative from Zipley Fiber, and we'll also be talking to the NFC one as well. I'm going to save you all the conversation, and we can just say what applied to Hyperfiber applies to Zipley. The one thing that I did want to just bring up for the record, and this also applies to NFC, and Brett can obviously add more to this. One of the questions that came up is, why is Zipley and NFC like the same application, right?
Yeah.
And so a little bit of history around this particular application is that when it came in, it was just Zipley. So Zipley was the franchisee. They had some corporate restructuring and changes that ultimately resulted in a Zipley and an NFC. And each of those are legal entities on their own, but they work in partnership to execute that fiber installation. Because of that new structure that occurred midway through their application process, we then pivoted and then did NFC, and then but because they each have to act on their own, right? Because they're not a successor or an assignee, they're actually two separate entities. And so that's why they each have their own franchise agreement. And that's exactly why they are exactly the same, because, and I think Brett, you can speak to this more, Zipley's been the proponent applicant, a representative of that. Brett, did you want to add anything to that? Did I describe that accurately?
Yes, Lena, you did a great job. Just a couple things. As a previous recent mayor, great conversation going on in the room. I'd like to give a thanks for the recognition of National Public Works, great organization, APWA, and I recently took my own city through accreditation on that, and a great process. As far as the NFC and the Zipley partnership, NFC holds certain assets, and then when it hits the residents, it becomes Zipley Pacific. That's why there's two different agreements. Think of it as two different pots of money that you see in your city budgets. It's the same idea with those two different organizations. And if I could follow up on some of the conversation that was going on as far as sharing trenches, that sort of thing, that's such great ideas. Anytime that utilities can coordinate and get into the same area and have less disturbance for citizens, that's a goal. I would also throw that out as you guys just reviewed your TIB. Anytime you have any construction going on or trenches going on, let those utilities know so that we can get in there and disturb it once, right? So yeah, absolutely.
Council, I have really no other presentation unless there's additional questions related to Zipley.
Beth.
Did I see, I took a note, and so maybe there was a lot going on in that packet, but are they going to tag onto existing? Like, I thought I saw they were going to tag into existing systems, but like maybe on poles, or is there a hybrid there or no?
Well,
Did I miss
yeah,
anything?
yes and no. Most of our franchisees have stated if there's a pole, we might use the pole. If there's not a pole, we'll go underground.
Okay.
Generally, what we're doing is that's kind of the big broad brush across the whole city, and then permit by permit, they evaluate how they're going in. Does that get to the question?
I think so. Yeah, I
Okay.
thought that was I thought they were doing something completely different.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? I did see in this, in Zipley's application, they have a build out schedule of 9 to 12 months. Is that fairly typical for this for the entire city?
Well, that's what most of them are telling me. Most of them would start tomorrow. I don't know, Brett, if you want to kind of talk about as soon as they've got permits that are ready, that they're waiting for this agreement to come through. So that could be a reality for them, but that's going to be their business model.
And then I also noticed on this one that there were some amendments to the standard agreement. Did you have any comment or concerns about any of those?
No, no, there's no comments or concerns around that. That ran through legal through Mark. They also have a legal franchisee that is excellent in these. And so between the attorneys, we got that figured out. I will say they weren't substantive in the sense of like they're getting any kind of special treatment. Much of what they wanted to modify within their agreement was just particularities around language and specifics that tied more into their model. Mark, did you want to add to that?
Selena, you did a great job of explaining that. In any franchise, any franchisee can negotiate the terms, and a lot of terms that were suggested by Ziply and by other franchisees were rejected outright, and others were negotiated into something that was acceptable for the city to mitigate risk of the franchisee entering the city's right of way. So we every single one of these is different. And every single one has requested different things or has not requested anything at all. So we evaluate each request on an individual basis and make determinations on whether it's acceptable to the city or not.
Okay. And maybe it's for conversation offline, but just curious if, things like First Amendment says clarification of franchise term and renewal provisions, refinements throughout. Are those things that we can incorporate into our standard franchise agreement if it
I mean, they could if we start to see a pattern,
Okay.
But I think, given that we've had 7 of these now, and they're the only ones that have
Okay.
modified that, it didn't raise to a high level.
Okay. All right, if there's no other questions about this one, all right. We'll go to new business item number 3. Sound like a broken record. Introduction and overview of a franchise agreement with NFC Northwest LLC, city file number PW 26-012. Selena.
All right, council. This is just the other half of that Ziply conversation. So NFC being the other entity asking for a franchise. Again, they use the same franchise agreement that Ziply did, same negotiated outcomes, and as you see in your packet, the noticing and the feedback for that particular project. I don't have anything really specific to add. I think it was covered in the previous 2 presentations.
Any questions on this one? No? Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. We'll look forward to this coming back to us, I guess, so.
And if I can just thank the folks that
Yeah.
from those franchisees for being available tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, new business item number 4. Consider an ordinance to amend chapter 19.30 CMC and adopt by reference the 2026 transportation impact fee rate study and consider a resolution to adopt the updated transportation impact fee. Selena, once again. Yeah.
All right, let's see, that is there. Why does it look so short? Let me see what I can do here. And I'll just acknowledge Dawn is also on the line. Is that going? There we go. I do have a very short presentation tonight. Much of this is what you already saw at this council study session, but that was back in March. So this is more of just a reminder primer. So tonight, we're asking the council to consider the transportation impact fee update, which includes amendments to chapter 19, 30 CMC, and then adoption of the 2026 impact fee rate study, and then a resolution that takes that rate study information and makes it the applicable fee for impact fees. We talked about this in March with the council. We had a great 90-minute study session on this. And really just to not bury the headline, what staff is proposing is the $722 per trip, and which equates to about a $7,276,000 single family residential fee for new construction.
Selena,
So did I say that? I'm like, feel like I'm tongue tied. $7,276.
I see on the blue sheet, maybe this is one.
Did I get the
It says
numbers backwards?
7,298 per single family.
Hold on, give me
Well,
one
it's on
minute.
page 1268. Maybe I'm reading that wrong. But that's this one.
722.
7298.
I'm double checking. No, you're correct. What I have on the screen is correct. It's 7,276.
Okay,
So I apologize that I missed that in the blue sheet.
so it's not, it's, okay. that's
Yeah,
fine.
so it's 7276.
All right.
And then the 722.
Okay.
And this is attachment to Exhibit A, gives the numbers,
Okay.
validates those numbers.
Great.
Apologies for that.
No worries.
I wrote a lot of blue sheets.
Yeah, it's fine. It happens.
And so tonight, we're just asking that the council consider this ordinance and resolution. Just really quick, you've seen this timeline before. There's a lot of work that goes into this, and this really starts at the tip of our comprehensive plan, and our fee has not been updated since 2012. And as you'll see in the packet, again, there's that evaluation of the various cities and where Covington falls on that, and then kind of rising up a little bit higher in that chart. And there was also a year-over-year CPI that talks about if we were able to, under the law, apply the CPI, what that number would have been. So we're working with a 2012 number that we're going to now bring into 2026. Just a reminder what we can use impact fees for. They're one-time charges. They go into the fund for growth-related transportation capacity improvements. Under the RCW's, impact fees must be proportionate to the development's impact. And that's why it's really important that we have these studies. So that's why the comp plan sets the tone for what is your capital needs to support your growth. That information rolls into the impact fee assessment and evaluation, and then we determine what those fees are based on that expected growth. So we can't use the fees for maintenance or corrective existing deficiencies, and we collect these fees one time at the building permit issuance. So it's for new development. We don't go back and reassess folks that are already living in their house today. This is just a little bit of the system of how this works. So I just talked about this, about the growth plan. The comprehensive plan establishes the growth that gets worked into our capital improvement plans. You heard tonight about the TIP. And then those are the projects that are identified to support the anticipated growth. And then those impact fees help fund that work. And it's really important to also note that the city of Covington has a service area of the city of Covington. Some cities will break down different service areas. We have one bucket of funds. We're not large enough that we needed to bifurcate the city in a different way. And then that allows our friends in Public Works to work through that TIP program. I talked a little bit about this is the 4-step method. Again, this is just a picture. Again, this is in your packet tonight for the TIP. So we look at those capacity projects, we estimate that public funding, we forecast trip growth, and we calculate cost per trip. And then that's how we end up with these dollar amounts. So just a little bit of information from that report, high level. So the rate study identified about 92.7 million in transportation capacity projects needed to accommodate our projected growth. And remember, our growth is 2024 to 2044 in our comp plan. Approximately 37.8 million, or about 41% of it, is anticipated to come from public funding sources. So, and Don can speak to more of this if you want to get into the details, but that's things like your grants, any type of federal dollars that we obtain. Those are the others, right? The sales, the tax, I forget which one it is. Sales, oh my gosh, the tax. I just lost
Incremental tax funding?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, it's okay. But all those dollars that we collect, and I apologize, I just lost it. The remaining growth related share is allocated proportionally to development through the impact fees. And then based on that trip growth, the proposed fee is approximately the 722 or the 7,276 for the residential units. I went through that quickly. Don, do you want to run through those others real quick?
Really, the funding is really, like you said, it's really
Yeah.
primarily just the grant funding.
The grant funding. Okay.
Apply. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
That is the end of my presentation.
Okay.
Went through that pretty quick, so happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Remind me, what's the current fee?
Oh,
Just
it's 4,200 and something.
Okay, it's fine.
I can bring it up. It's in the
No,
packet.
it's-
Yeah.
Big deal. I just, okay. Any other questions? Yeah, sorry, Jeff.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt an ordinance amending chapter 19.30 Covington Municipal Code and adopting the 2026 Transportation Impact Fee Rate Study in substantial form as presented.
Second.
I think I heard Beth first, so. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt an ordinance amending chapter 19.30 CMC and adopting the 2026 Transportation Impact Fee Rate Study in substantial form as presented. Jeff, do you want to speak to your motion?
You have a question? I saw you.
Sorry.
Does this apply to ADUs? Or is that a different conversation?
We will be bringing back ADUs pursuant to the council direction. Yep.
Staff went through a very comprehensive study of where we were at, and we haven't done anything since 2012, and bringing this up to current fees to pay for what basically needs to be paid for to cover costs that are being handled and dealt with, so that public funds are taken care of.
Okay. Beth?
Jeff encapsulated that pretty well. I would just say, we just need to keep up so that our residents can have some kind of reprieve, as much as possible from footing the bill for infrastructure that needs to come.
Any other questions? Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the resolution? No, and just for the record, ADU stands for accessory dwelling unit. So, okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt an ordinance amending chapter 19.30 CMC and adopting the 2026 Transportation Impact Fee Rate Study in substantial form as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Council wish to take further action.
I'd like to
Beth.
make a motion to approve the resolution amending resolution number 2025-19 to implement a new Appendix A traffic impact fee rate in substantial form as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve a resolution amending resolution number 2025-19 to implement a new Appendix A traffic impact fee rate in substantial form as presented. Beth?
Same comments as applied to the
Okay.
last.
Jennifer?
Yeah, and thank you to staff for the very comprehensive session at the end of March. I watched it today and there was a lot of detail in there. I missed it because I wasn't here. Yeah, so thank you for also the refresh. It's appreciated.
Anybody else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve a resolution amending resolution number 2025-19 to implement a new Appendix A traffic impact fee rate in substantial form as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. What are we, halfway?
We've got.
Yoy.
We're good.
Okay.
Trucking.
New business item number 5, consider approving Equity Cultural and Social Justice Commission's recommendations for the Equity Cultural and Social Justice Commission's community grant. So that's Selena again. Wow. You're getting paid by the word today?
You know, I think it just all converged
Yeah.
at once. We're busy in community development. I thank you, and I just want to acknowledge that Daphne Hernandez, the liaison for the Equity Commission, is on the line too and can speak in more detail as she facilitated this with that commission. Before I get started on a quick presentation, I just want to briefly clarify one point for the record. There was a statement in the staff report about council priorities for types of events related to this grant. And it really should be clear that it should have read just the council's priority was during the budget was setting up the grant itself during the budget process. And that at no point does the council have any kind of priority over that. So I just want to acknowledge that for the record and in the blue sheet in front of you. So what, really quickly, just to kind of summarize what's in that blue sheet, and the decision before you. Earlier this year, you established the ECSJ Community Grant Program, to allow, other, nonprofits and organizations to, obtain some grants to throw or to hold different events within the city, related to, the ECSJ's commission's grant process. The grant program was established through the budget. The application window for this grant was open for about 6 weeks. So that went from March 5th to April 15th. It was promoted via the website, social media, newsletters, and other commissions. So we got the word out as quick and fast as we could, just knowing that we got a slower start this year because it's new. So next year we've worked out some kinks this year. The scoring, the equity grant application had a rubric in it, and that's what the Equity and Social Justice Commission used to evaluate the applications. And so we received one application that's before you tonight from the Covington Town Pride, and they demonstrated that they met those requirements in that rubric. So they're promoting diversity. They're expecting to serve 300 to 500 residents is their estimation. And they have done some pre-work as well. Not that that really, goes into that decision making, but that just shows that they're very serious about holding that event. And so they've shown also that they've got realistic budget for insurance, art supplies, and entertainment. So on April 23rd, the ECSJ voted unanimously to recommend the maximum award of $1,000 to Covington Town Pride. So the next steps, if the council so approves that tonight, we will let Covington Town Pride know that information, and then they'll work with us to provide 2 social media posts to help promote that event. We'll work with finance to ensure that they get those funds. One thing that I did want to present to the council, just as an FYI, is that one thing that Covington Town Pride reached out to staff about was because if they got this grant, then the ECSJ became a large donor of their event, and they're doing t-shirts, and wanted to say thank you to the ECSJ for that support. We've talked with Regan and Carla around that. So we're going to do some specific branding for these ECSJ to be on those shirts, assuming that look goes well. I don't think there's any council action needed on that decision, but staff will be following up with you on that final design of ultimately what that looks for, or what that looks like.
Good.
And so the motion before you tonight is just to approve the $1,000 grant submitted by Covington Town Pride.
Any questions or comments? But yeah,
I was just
Riley?
gonna motion to approve.
okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the recommendation made by the Equity, Cultural, and Social Justice Commission to award $1,000 grant to Covington Pride for its 2026 community event. Award in substantial form is attached. Riley, you want to speak to your motion?
Yes, reading over this, you can see how passionate this group is about creating an inclusive space for the citizens of Covington and beyond, anticipating 300 to 500 attendees. Sounds like a lot of people, but I attended their event last year and saw quite a bit of people showing up, and that number seems to be only growing on their website. So considering this is an open doors free event for all, I'm excited that our commission approved this, and they obviously went through their own criteria to make sure it was within scope. So I'm happy to support.
Thank you. Jennifer.
I'm excited to kick off this grant process that's being with oversight by ECSJ. Thank you, Selena, for the further detail about the logo. I was going to ask about that, but that does make sense, and I think it's a great way to showcase the ECSJ support, and also it's kind of like free advertisement for our commission.
Yeah.
People will see that, and what I always look at community sponsors, because I do choose to do business with folks that are putting money into Covington. So seeing ECSJ, what's that? So I think that's a great idea, and I'm excited that it is to promote this event. The grant is so well written. I wonder if we'll see such well-written, comprehensive grant applications from others. I don't want that to scare them away. I mean, just reading through this, yeah, they touch all the points. So, anyway, very excited to support this first grant from our ACSJ and for the event on June 20th.
Great. Anybody else wishing to speak for or against? Yes, Jeff.
I am going to support this because during our budget workshop last October, we had a very lengthy discussion during council. And we came up with this grant process to make it equitable for all groups in Covington to apply for a grant from the city. Not just one group, but this makes it more equitable for everybody to apply and be recognized and to receive funding if they need it. And I agree, it was a very well-written grant process. I appreciate the fact that we do have the Equity, Cultural, and Social Justice Commission working through this grant process to approve grants and making the recommendation to the council.
Thank you, Jeff. Anybody else? Yes, Beth.
Yeah, just another huge shout out to the staff and the commission for pulling this fairly quickly. And seeing this new type of process for this commission to be able to allocate funding like many of our other commissions do. And again, I appreciate us offering this to the community. Staff can't do all of it. Like our Parks and Recs department can't do all of the programming. We would love to do everything, right? But that's just not feasible. So more we can get community partners involved in that process, I think will make our community more well-rounded. So I appreciate the applicant in this case too.
Anybody else? Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the recommendation by the Equity, Cultural, and Social Justice Commission to award $1,000 grant to Covtown Pride for its 2026 Community Event Award in substantial form as attached. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. I'll get to my next. A lot of paper today. Okay. Okay. New business item number 6. Approve a resolution adopting the 2027 work plan for South King County Housing and Homelessness Partners. So Lena.
Right, this is exciting. I'm gonna actually hand this over to Dorsal Plants, who's the program coordinator for South King County Homeless Partnerships, or SCIP. And also I just want to acknowledge too that Daphne Hernandez is still online as she is the liaison to that program for the city.
Yeah. Dorsal, thank you. And just thank you for being patient. We've got a long night. Well, anyway.
Oh, no,
The floor is yours.
glad to finally give your esteemed director a break.
Yeah.
A wonderful evening to visit with the city. So good evening. My name is Dorsal Plants, and I'm the program coordinator for the South King Housing and Homeless Partners, or SCIP for short. I'm super excited this evening to be here to present the executive board's soon-to-be recommended 2027 work plan and budget. This is an annual process required by interlocal agreement, and it provides us an opportunity to share the work that we're planning on doing in 2027. Is this where?
Yeah.
Sure.
It does. Awesome. For those that are new to our work, SCIP is your sub-regional affordable housing consortium formed in 2019 and made up of 11 South King County cities, including Covington, plus King County. And Covington is represented on our executive board by Councilmember Christina Solstice and alternate Councilmember Debbie Fresta. You can see also the other members listed here on the slide here. We are a unified, coordinated, and collaborative coalition funding the construction and preservation of affordable housing right here in South King County, in addition to supporting the subregion's work and cross-jurisdictional collaboration towards addressing our shared affordable housing challenges. This is a meaningful opportunity to work together with neighboring cities to make an impact on the subregion's affordable housing shortage. To date, we have pulled over $18 million to house our low-income neighbors or to rehabilitate deteriorating multifamily buildings. And you can see our mission statement here listed on the slide. The SCIP interlocal agreement requires that the legislative bodies of the member jurisdictions that comprise SCIP, take action and adopt the SCIP Executive Board's approved work plan and budget for the next year before it becomes effective. The work plan and budget reflects the goals and priorities of the SCIP Executive Board and incorporates the review and feedback of the SCIP Community Advisory Board, the Staff Work Group, and the SOCIO Long Range Planners. The advisory board is made up of members of the South King County community and housing experts, while our staff work group and SOCIO group are made up of staff from each member jurisdiction that provides guidance to SCIP. In January, SCIP staff administered a survey to the executive board and a draft was developed based on the survey results and reviewed by the staff work group. Further executive board feedback was incorporated at our March workshop to develop a finalized draft. As you can see on the slide, you are receiving this presentation prior to the board taking action due to timeline and scheduling constraints. I don't anticipate any major changes to the version you have in your agenda packet this evening, although the dollar amount to the set aside and reserve will be definitively known after March or after May 15th. I will send the final work plan and budget once it is adopted by our board for your records. The 4 goals of the SCIP work plan remain the same in 2027 as in 2026. They include funding the expansion and preservation of affordable housing, developing policies to expand and preserve affordable housing, serving as an advocate for South King County, and of course, managing the operations and administration of SCIP. Each goal in the work plan has a corresponding action that supports the goal. Most goals are continuing from previous years. Each goal has a corresponding indicator that will assist in measuring progress towards the goal. Those indicators are reported out in our annual work plan or our annual report. The full work plan with action items and indicators can be found in your agenda packet. This table shows the state's Office of Financial Management's population data through 2025 for each member jurisdiction. For King County, we only have the unincorporated King County estimate, which is larger than the actual unincorporated South King County population. You may recall that SCIP's operating budget is funded solely from SCIP member contributions, which are based on population tiers, which we'll go over on the next couple of slides. For the 2027 budget, the 2025 population data was used to establish which tier each member falls into, because the 2026 population data does not come out until the end of June. No member jurisdiction changed population tiers this year. However, you can see that our region is still growing. The 2027 SCIP operating budget totals $525,008. 68% of SCIP's expenses go towards the salary and benefits of its 2 full-time staff. While the total budget did increase by approximately $23,000, this growth is driven exclusively by necessary investments in staffing and in IT fund support. There is a nearly 22% decrease in professional services from 2026 to 2027, which reflects a deliberate shift towards building internal capacity and reducing reliance on external vendors. The professional services include the advisory board's compensation, contract attorney expenses for the Housing Capital Fund, third-party construction report reviews for the applications for the Capital Fund, along with professional development and travel expenses and some annual licensing fees. SCIP does continue to spend down the fund balance from previous cost savings to mitigate any additional increases to member contributions. Lastly, on the budget, in 2025, the Executive Board adopted a reserve policy to set aside interest earned on the Housing Capital Fund contributions prior to being distributed to the awardees. Interest earned in 2025 to be applied to the reserve in 2027 for the City of Covington will be a portion of the total, which is $544,744. This amount will be added to the amount previously kept in reserve for a total of $1,026,983, which you can see noted at the bottom of the budget in your agenda packet. These funds will be used to assist in future years should there be an economic recession and members choose to pause an increase in dues. This slide shows the SCIP population tiers proposed for 2027, and the Executive Board is recommending maintaining the contributions at the 2026 level. I do want to make a quick note that as part of the 2027 work plan, we will be exploring different strategies to expand staff capacity, and it's likely that we will need to increase the member operational contribution for the 2028 budget. We are continuing to spend down reserve, but we will have extensive conversations with each member jurisdiction before that were to happen. So in conclusion, per the requirements of our interlocal agreement between the city and Skip, Skip is seeking your support to adopt the 2027 Skip work plan and the 2027 operating budget. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dorsal. Appreciate it. Any questions? No? Okay. Council wish to take action?
I have a-
Oh, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned an advisory board. Is that different from the executive board?
Yes, so the executive board is made up of a elected official or staff representative from the city, and they're the primary drivers of Skip. And then our community advisory board supplements that work and is made up of residents of South King County and housing developers. They're the ones that do the evaluation and review of the Housing Capital Fund applications and make recommendations, which is what the executive board adopts.
Understood. And how is that board determined?
The executive board appoints advisory board members. There's 15 members currently. They're serving 4-year terms. And it's yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm new to this, so I'm just trying to learn how everything works. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Council wish to take action? Okay, is there a second? All right. Got ahead of me there. Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution to continue funding of Skip at the levels of $15,086 for the 2027 funding cycle, as well as approve the work plans. Jeff, do you want to speak to your motion?
Well, Christina sits on this and gives us regular updates. Using this level of funding, matching it or using our percentage, adding it to the other cities within Skip helps with the funding ability to get future grants, to get more grants to build more facilities that are apartment complexes. And it's money that's going to a good use to help those in need.
Great. Excuse me, Debbie, you want to speak to your second?
Thank you. Well, I appreciate a couple of things I want to point out. One is that our rate did not increase for 2027 funding. And that we have the ability to do more together. As Jeff said, we could not make a difference in any organization for $15,000 a year, but combined with the other cities and seeing what Skip has done with the money, I'm very encouraged and grateful. Thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, Christina. Yeah.
I'll just say that, thank you to that point. The ROI on our 15,000 plus is extensive. There's families that are receiving extreme help, and perhaps we can mitigate the struggle where we can. One thing that I will say, the executive board and the advisory and the work board, everyone that we get to work with, I have just been really fortunate. It's a really great group of people who truly are vested in the benefit of everything that Skip does. So it's just an honor. Thank you for trusting me here, and I wholeheartedly approve and support.
Anybody else? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution to continue funding Skip at the level of $15,086 for the 2027 funding cycle, as well as approve the work plan. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right. We are up to new business item number 7, and we have broken the streak. We're gonna get the 2025 fourth quarter financials. Casey.
Yeah, let me see if I can get this to come. Here we go. As always, I'm not the best at paying attention to when I'm scrolling, so please let me know if I get off track. Okay. Okay, fourth quarter reports. So I'm gonna skip the first page and I'm just gonna hop right to the good stuff. I'm gonna talk about property taxes first. So through fourth quarter, the city has received a little over almost $3.3 million worth of collections, which is almost exactly what our levy was. So this time of year, I usually look to see what my year-end receivable is gonna be and how much is outstanding. And out of the $3.3 million levy we have about $25,000 outstanding in collections still. It's up a little bit from 2024, but I generally see that increase a little bit each year just based on the levy increasing each year. For real estate excise taxes, we had a great year. Through fourth quarter collections are at almost $1.2 million. We exceeded our budget by about 159%. There were 60 new home sales last year, 244 existing home sales, 3 building sales, and 12 lot sales. The average existing home price was $624,780, which was down 6.3% from 2024 existing home prices. For 2024, we were right at about $667,000, so down just a little bit. The average new home prices were at $885,395, again, down a little bit, not as much as existing home prices. They were down 1.8%. From 901,400. So seen a little bit of a dip there. For retail sales and use tax, so I'm just gonna basically speak on the unrestricted sales tax. We had a budget of 5.6 million. We exceeded it by, we brought in 6.2 million, so 111% of our budget. Retail was lower by 1.2% over the same time in 2024. Construction was lower by 7.8%. Food services was up 2.8%, and all other categories increased by 5.5%. Total collections for the HB 1406 were decreased of about 5.1% over the 2024 collections. And again, those are going to Vine Maple Place for the rental assistant. Total collections for the HB 1590, which contribute to the skip that we were just speaking about, were up just 40.45% above the 2024 collections. I'm sorry, below 2024 collections. And just as a reminder, again, like I mentioned, that supports the skip. Not only the membership fees are paid out of there, but also the construction dollars that we send, as well as the community cares program. The street fund TBD sales tax, the collections exceeded, again, budget at 111%, brought in almost 2.2 million for the TBD. And then just as a reminder, the public safety sales tax will be going into effect July 1st, and our sales tax will be increasing from 9.2 to 9.3%. For utility taxes, our total collections were 3.6 million, or 118% of our budget. I just wanted to point out a couple of them. Most of them exceeded what we were anticipating, as well as the 2024 collections. There was just 2 that are continuing to decrease year over year. The cable and the telephone, we consistently see those just kind of ticking down. I don't know, as more folks drop cable and start streaming, and cell phone plans get more or less expensive, things like that. But we see those kind of tick down every year. So business and occupation tax, so this is a new one for us. We're still getting some history on it, but our year-to-date collections for 25 were 2.6 million, which was about $600,000 over my estimate. So that was nice. But as we get more history, we'll be able to dial that estimate in a little bit closer. And you can see based on the chart that retailing really is our major category. For interfund loans, we have 4 projects that we're currently loaning funds towards. These are typically projects where they are grant reimbursable, but we have to put the funds out first and wait for the grant funds to come back in. So we provide an interfund loan to float them that cash until those grant funds come in. And I will mention the project that says CIP 1201/CIP 1127. 1201 is no longer receiving interfund loans. They've paid back everything, so it's just CIP 1127 that has outstanding loans. For the general fund, operating revenues were at 121% of budget, a little over $22 million brought in last year. Our total expenditures, excluding the transfers out, were under budget. They were at 93.3% overall. And there's just a couple that I'll point out to you that you can see were over budget for last year. The first being City Council was over budget. That was due to the sales tax collections came in higher, which means that I will distribute more to Skip. So that number came in a little bit higher in your guys' department, as well as there was a professional service contract for the solid waste contract procurement that came out of your guys' budget, but we have already been reimbursed for that. So that's offset in the revenue side. And then the only other one was legal. It was just over just a tiny bit for some salary and benefit increases. So for public works, total operating revenues for the street fund were at 108.1% of budget, or $2.8 million. And the increase over budget was really the sales tax. They brought in an additional $220,000 in TBD sales tax last year. The other one that I just wanted to point out was the Comcast franchise fees. This is kind of in line the same way with the utility fees, where we're seeing those cable fees tick down. We're also seeing those franchise fees tick down. So the budget was 225 and we brought in a 203,000. So just down just a tiny bit. Total expenditures, excluding transfers out, we're at 107% of budget. So the street fund was over budget for last year. And there was a couple of big things that contributed to that. First being the street lights and the signals came in a lot higher than we were anticipating. So those were some big chunks that contributed to being over budget. And then we also saw some landscape services that came in a little higher. For the swim fund, total operating revenues were at 113.6%. That was due to some interest income that came in higher, and also some grant proceeds that came in. For the total expenditures, they were under budget at 78.6%. There was a couple of capital projects that didn't take place last year, so we were under budget for those items. For development services, our total revenue was almost 3.5 million, or 78% of budget. It's still an increase over 2024 rates, so we're still ticking in the right direction. The number of permits for single family residences were at 94 compared to 60 in 2024. So again, the right way. For all other permit categories, there were 444 permits issued compared to 376 in 2024. And then for their operating expenditures, they were at 3.9 million, or 73.7% of budget. So under budget also. For aquatics, recreation, and cultural arts, the aquatics revenue came in at 115.8% of budget, or $1.1 million. Recreation also did well. It came in over budget at 111%. And their operating expenditures were both down, 93.1% in aquatics, and recreation and cultural arts were at 91.1%. I will mention, though, that it looks like our aquatic center splash counts have ticked down again from 2024. 2024 splashes were 108,000, whereas 2025 were just a little over 92,000. And I don't see a good reason for that, but won't be that spot. For cash and investments, we have currently $48.2 million in cash and investments. Our largest gainers were the general fund and the swim fund. And the general fund, I can easily point out, was the B&O tax year over year. So that was a big change, as well as the sales tax increase that we saw. The local government investment pool is where we keep most of our liquid cash. We earned 3.8% there last year, and we currently have 38.6 million invested. And we also have some investments outside the LGIP at 9.5 million. And just as a side note, total interest earned for 2025, we brought in just a little over $1.9 million in interest. I have a nice little ladder going with interest as things mature. I'm on it and trying to get the best rates for us. So for the capital investment program, I won't go over all of the projects unless you have any specific questions. But I will point out for the bonds that we're down to our final 2 payments. So we just have a little bit over $1.8 million. We'll pay those off in 2027, just in time for probably our Public Works Trust Fund loan to keep paying. But that's okay. I've got the cash. Those other ones will be paid off, and I'm really excited about that. So, and really that was all I had, and I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Thank you, Casey. Any questions for Casey? Yeah, Debbie.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you for a great presentation. It's a good ending of the year. I had a question on, I can't remember which slide it was, or I can see what page it was, but as I was looking through the expenses 24 to 25, there were two buckets that really decreased, which surprised me. One was parks maintenance. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Which year over year, we had a turf project, I believe in 2024, that was about $100,000. So that was
okay.
probably the decrease there.
All right, thank you. And then the other one was executive. I mean, it's not a huge amount, but they're just areas that
Maybe
love
it's
it.
municipal.
I know exactly what it is.
And municipal part too. Oh, no, that went up.
The executive was because in 2024, we received a late billing from King County for our voter registration and election costs. So we had 2 years worth of it paid in 2024 versus 2025.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And then I actually forgot to mention one other thing. So I had some other numbers that were kind of hot off the press. I just finished them today to show you guys how our fund balance changed. And I'll just read them for you. But so for the general fund, street fund, development services, and swim fund, kind of our 4 operating funds. For the general fund, we had an estimate when we were preparing the 2026 budget. I prepared an estimate of what I thought the 2025 fund balance would end up as, and I estimated $20.8 million, and it actually came in at 22.4. So about 1.6 million higher than I had estimated. Again, a lot of that was due to business occupation tax and sales tax, but it was still an 8% increase. So that was great. The street fund also saw an increase over my estimate of about 119,000. And again, that was due to the sales tax, extra sales tax that came in. Development services fund was pretty much just on par with exactly what I had estimated. And then the swim fund came in at about $785,000 higher than I had estimated. And again, that was just due to a couple capital projects that get started last year. So
great.
That was it.
Christina.
I think we know where we're gonna pay for our extra officer with. Just
yeah.
I'll give you guys updated reserve balances at the first quarter report so you can see exactly where that public safety reserve is.
Those are great numbers. Thank you.
Yeah. Beth.
Great. Just thanks again. I mean, I always
Yeah.
appreciate your reports and the diligence that you have, especially like we'd rather hear you come back saying, oh, I underestimated and having more money than we thought rather than the other way around. And so I know your conservative approach to ensure that we have what we need, you know, notwithstanding increased costs that go up every year, but thank you so much.
Anybody else? I echo that, Casey. It's always, I always appreciate your updates and give us the information straight. And because of our conservative fiscal approach, you know, we're in better shape than a large majority of our sister cities. And so just really appreciate you and your team. So thank you very much for all of that. So any other questions? Okay. Well, we are now up to the 7th inning stretch. Does anybody need to take a stretch or anything? No? Okay. Business item number 8. Appoint voting delegates to the 2026 Puget Sound Regional Council General Assembly. Regan.
This one should be quick, Mayor.
Yeah.
So the Puget Sound Regional Council, PSRC, their General Assembly is held annually. It includes mayors, county executives, commissioners, council members from each PSRC member jurisdiction. So it's being held this year at the Seattle Convention Center on Thursday, May 28th. And the item before you tonight is to appoint a voting delegate to go and vote on officers, the biennial budget, and the work plan.
Okay, thank you. Anybody wish to take action?
I know I sit on PSRC, but I am unable to attend that day.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
I'm out of town that day.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Do we,
Gosh, normally I would, but that's the
Yeah,
only day.
yeah.
Like,
I think we're all in the same boat.
yeah, there's a possibility I
Yeah.
could do it. I just don't want to like,
That's okay. Just, if you can, just let us know. I think the council conditionally approves
Mhm.
Beth, and then she can let us know. Would that work?
sure.
So do we need to move that?
yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
What was that? Sorry, I didn't hear what you,
And then we can just collaborate.
yeah. So we need
Do we need to make a
a
motion?
motion for this?
That'd be great.
Okay,
Okay, I motion that Beth Porter represent us at the PSRC meeting.
is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Beth Porter as voting delegate to represent the city of Covington at the 2026 Puget Sound Regional Council General Assembly. Debbie, must speak to your motion.
I appreciate that Beth is willing to go and almost available to go.
Yeah.
I don't represent-
I think we're all in that boat. Yeah.
Figure it out.
Christina,
Thank you for the tentative agreement.
anybody else wish to speak for or against? I just want to say thank you to Jeff for serving as our delegate all these years.
Yeah.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Beth Porter as the voting delegate to represent the city of Covington at the 2026 Puget Sound Regional Council General Assembly. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We are now up to new business item number 9, consider appointments to the Arts Commission. I don't know who am I turning this over to? Anyone? No?
I would,
Okay, Beth.
I would move to appoint Liz Halberg to fill position number 3 on the Arts Commission with a term expiring May 31st to 2029.
Second,
Okay. It's moved and seconded to appoint Liz Halberg to fill position number 3 on the Arts Commission with the term expiring May 31st, 2029. Beth, you want to speak to your motion?
Yes, we had an opportunity to interview Liz as a reapplicant. She's already been on the commission for a while. And I was really touched by her humble nature, and she brings an interesting perspective, and she continues to talk about her where she fits in the demographic of the age brackets and some of the different perspectives she can bring. And some of the things that programs that she started were the painting of the rocks. And she started helping with the chalk artist at Chalk Fest. And one of the other pieces that she mentioned was making arts more accessible to all, expanding our presence in the community with visual color and creativity so that we can present and represent our community, and tying it all back to a vibrant, engaged community, a healthy and safe environment. And so she exemplifies our city values and is a great addition, and would like to see her extend that.
Thank you. Debbie, speak to
Thank
your
you.
second.
well, I agree with Beth's reasons that Liz will do a great job serving again for the Arts Commission. And yes, she did initiate a lot of great ideas that I didn't realize they had been her original idea. But then when we ask questions about what would you like to see in the next 10 years, one that's come up quite a bit with candidates for the Arts Commission is murals. And I think she was the one that even talked more about maybe murals under the overpass, so that while you're stuck in that 272nd Street traffic, you have something colorful to look at. And yeah, again, she would like to see art more accessible and expanding it. She loves kids, so I think she'll do a great job.
Anybody else want to speak for or against the motion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to appoint Liz Halberg to fill position number 3 on the Arts Commission with the term expiring May 31st, 2029. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, council wish to take further action. Okay, all right, Jennifer.
I would like to move to appoint Andrea Eckert to fill position number 4 on the Arts Commission with the term expiring May 31, 2029.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to appoint Andrea Eckhart to fill position number 4 on the Arts Commission with the term expiring May 31st, 2029. Jennifer, I'll speak to your motion.
Yeah, Andrea is applying for reappointment to the commission, and she's passionate about continuing her work and really seeing yarn bombing come to fruition. That's, you know, the one of the ideas that she brought to the commission, and I'm excited to see the further creativity. I know Andrea from other volunteer spaces, and she always has a creative component and lens that she uses to interact with the world. And I think that's a very valuable attribute to the commission the work does.
Great. Christina, your
Sure.
second.
Absolutely yes to everything that Jennifer said. Andrea is clearly very creative and very passionate about art and everything that it will do for the community and Covington. It brings vibrance into the city, and and what I appreciate that she said, that it elevates the functions and events within our city, and gives us more reasons to be proud of where we live in. So I just can't wait to see what she will do in her next term. Thank you. And the yarn idea.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Anybody else? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to appoint Andrea Eckert to fill position number 4 on the Arts Commission with the term expiring May 31st, 2029. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, congratulations to them. Okay, we're now up to new business item number 10. Authorize the city manager to sign a right-of-way dedication deed, declaration of stormwater covenant and tree maintenance agreement for Station by Vintage, file number LU 19-0013. I guess I'm turning it over to Selena.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I'm gonna do some orientation to start around the project, and then I'm gonna talk about each one of those agreements that are in front of you. I did have a chance to read the comment letters that were provided. They do have my name all over them because I am the planning director. I also was right when I came back to Covington, and we didn't have a senior planner as they had left. So I was operating in that capacity, and I'll happily summarize the outcome of those comment letters too. So I'll do my best to walk you through it, but I'm gonna start easy, and then I'm gonna go hard, okay? So, easy one first. Let me share my screen here. And it's not gonna, Zoom is not helpful because it doesn't let you go back and forth. So bear with me here. Between multiple. Okay. So what you have, is it loading?
Try.
Thinking. Okay. So what you have right now on this screen is, is it gonna let me? This is the Station by Vintage site. So this is the Station by Vintage aerial. Right over here, this is Southeast Wax Road, and this is Covington Way, okay? The developer, as part of their project, is bound by the tree code, okay? And in that tree code, if you remove trees, you have to replace trees. And I don't know if this will let me go here to 2019, this is what this site looked like when it was vacant, okay? You can see there was a smattering of trees along kind of that western border along Covington Way. Those trees were significant enough that the developer had to replant those. They removed those trees and then replanted them. And I go back to 2025, you'll see those trees are gone. and then they did a tree replacement. Those trees are replaced in an easement behind the property. So there's a row of trees behind the property. That's where they replanted those trees pursuant to the code. So the easement that you have before you tonight is a protective easement, which basically says if you created if you created a new tree tract, then you need to have a protective easement on that, and then you need to meet all the requirements of the tree code for maintenance of those trees to ensure that they are healthy for up to those 5 years. And 5 years is because that's generally when those trees get established. So that's the tree easement before you. That's the location that that is applicable to. Is there any questions on the tree? Okay. So going into the next one, which is right of way. So when development comes into the city of Covington, they have to build streets and they have to improve the right of way that's adjacent to their project. And in this case, the developer was responsible to improve the portion of their project along Southeast Wax Road adjacent to the project and Covington Way. So again, this is what it looks like in 2025 aerials. This is what the road originally looked like in 2019 before the project started. When a development comes in to do those improvements, it's generally from the middle of the roadway to the site. Unless there's some other situation that requires kind of a full width, generally that's the practice. That's the proportionate improvement to the relationship of the impact that they're creating is half street improvements, okay? So you could see here from 2029, we can go out to 2021 as they start to construct. That eastern property line or that eastern roadway edge doesn't change because they didn't do improvements beyond the center line going west, right? So they did center line west to their site, center line east remains. There might be some patches and they did do some additional paving because we want the roadway to look nice. But when you go out there, you can visually see that. And then again, this is the final product in 2025. So all of these improvements, you'll see there's kind of this like median air turn lane, right? That's to accommodate because they build their portion based on the future width of that right of way, right? And so sometimes when we get a half a street, we got to make modifications until the other half comes in to circulate traffic correctly in this area. And in this area, there was on-street parking, there's the lane, and then because of that that widened width along Wax Road, because that road will be bigger in the future as development occurs, we had to kind of put this little faux median in there until such time you have a true center line. Similarly, on Covington Way, that roadway will also be much larger as the city develops over time and that roadway ultimately gets widened. So you'll see that they did the sidewalk improvements and then there's this big hatched mark, right? Because that's going to be necessary when that roadway is actually built to full width. But in the interim, we have to channelize the traffic in that space. So we've blocked that off. And then in the future, when we're ready to build Covington Way, then that will all get remarked out there. So the right-of-way dedication that's before you tonight is for those improvements that are directly adjacent to the project. So so they are dedicating to the city the portion of the right-of-way that they improved as a result of their project. Okay. Within that agreement, though, I will point out that there are some slight nuances because they did some specialized concrete, they did some stamped concrete, they kind of created a little frontage. If you go out there, they didn't just pour the normal concrete sidewalk. They wanted some additional artistic elements to their sidewalk. We said, great, you can do that, but that means you take care of it. And they said yes, and that is in that right-of-way dedication, that they're responsible for the improvements that go above the city's standard, okay? Very common. So that's what the right-of-way dedication is for tonight, is that improvement from what you see in 2019 to what you see in 2025. Sidewalk, curb, gutter, stormwater infrastructure, on-site, on-street parking, the lane extension. They had to dedicate that area. So we own that now. That's part of the city. Is there any questions on right-of-way dedication? Okay. So the next one is a little bit more tied with the emails that I read. So when this project came in, they have to manage their stormwater, okay? Covington generally doesn't like vaults. We don't want to put this all underground in concrete surfaces. We actually pride ourselves in having green infrastructure or a hybrid of such, right? And so we really encourage developers to do mowable swells, landscape swells, things that naturally collect that water and treat that more naturally, right? It's less infrastructure that we have to manage. There's not a lot of hard piping and there's not a lot of hard future replacement, right? We can manage it at the surface. So when the Station by Vintage came in, they have a stormwater facility, swale, kind of along here in the front end. You can, I don't know if it's zoomed in there. So right in here is a swale, okay? That swale collects the stormwater from the site. Now, what sometimes happens when a project comes in is that we look at it in 2D on a piece of paper. We give them all the permits necessary. There's engineers, geotechs, experts. Then we peer review that, right? So we cross-check their work and then issue them those permits. Well, what happened was when they got out into the field, they started to construct, and now you're really digging deeper into the soil. You're getting a little smarter about what happens. And this happens in all development. This is not unique to them. This is very standard. This is why we have construction inspectors. And this is why we allow revisions during construction. Okay. And if anybody's ever built anything, I'm sure you've had to pivot when it comes to your home, right? So that's what happened here. They built that bioswale and they said, oh no, we're short in our requirement to collect stormwater, right? So they had a shortage. And the building's going up and the stormwater shortage gets identified, okay? And they're ready to put people inside this facility. So one of the things you'll see in here is I say, why now? Why'd this take you so long, right? They were scrambling to find a solution on their own property, right? And they couldn't do that. So then they came to the city and they worked with us. And what I want to kind of do really quick here is point out across the street. So about right here where this car is, right here, you'll see the road gets much narrower. That's when we're crossing into County Road. Right, so we have edge, and you actually can see like the pavement when you drive over. Now you're in Covington. So that edge of pavement there, that gets into the county road. But the properties adjacent to this one right here is owned by the city of Covington. This one right here, also owned by the city of Covington. I'm going pretty fast, so tell me if I need to slow down. This piece of property, and I want you to look at the configuration of this property, okay? You've got this large, big property, and you've got this little weird piece over here, okay? This piece of property is owned by the Covington Water District, okay? And then you go back over here, and you click on this piece of property, this little bitty corner. That's actually owned by the Station by Vintage. So they own this weird little piece of property across the street. The other piece here that won't show up is this piece right here where it says no information. Why is there no information? Because it's owned by the city of Covington as right-of-way. And when we click on right-of-way, we get no information. So let me recap this. Corner piece owned by the Station by Vintage. Next piece owned by the Covington Water District. Next piece, Covington City right-of-way. Covington Water District, Covington. So, and I don't know if you can see this, but if you like scan in closer, you'll see this kind of barren dirt bottom area in here, through here. That's an existing roadside swale. That exists today. That existed in 2019. That has existed forever. That collects natural runoff from Covington Way. It was built when the roadway was put in. Not a whole lot's happened to it since. So what happened in that conversation with Station by Vintage for their stormwater is they were like, well, we got to figure out where to put this. And so our stormwater group in Public Works and Community Development worked together. We had a need that swell be improved. And we offered them the solution or the option to utilize this existing swell that sits on their property, Covington Water property, and city right of way. And they said, great, we'll do that. So their first round, when they went out there to build it, they actually went too far. They went into the King County right of way. So their pipes crossed down into the King County property. They had, you know, they went too far, and we called them on that. And my emails say that. Where's your survey? You should have known. It's the developer's responsibility to know where your boundaries are. Try again. Let's reassess. So, or your option is to go work with King County. If they're cool giving you an easement, we'll move on. They didn't want to do that. So then they came back to the city and they said, I think we can do this just in the space if Covington Water and the city are willing to work with us. So they made it a little bit wider, a little bit deeper, and it sits within that space. And I'm going to show you the as-builts. So is everyone kind of following right now? Okay. So let me switch over very quickly. I don't know if that'll show this. So let me stop sharing. Let me go back to sharing here. I think it's this one where my tabs are. So let me go up here. Okay. So when a project nears the end of it, so they get their construction permits in 2021, they're now getting certificate of occupancy in 2025. We're closing out their project because they have to bond for all those improvements for the first 2 years they're in performance. And then we get as-built. So once we know everything's been, all the bonding has been met, project is done, they do what are called as-built. And that's basically surveyed plans of the entire site. So I brought up the survey plans. There's 55 pages to these. I'm happy to scroll through them as needed. But ultimately, what this shows based on their survey of that, which is approved and reviewed by our engineering team, they go out, they verify this. This is the swell that was built. And this swell resides within those 3 properties. The property they own, which is in this corner here, the property of the city, which is that right of way, and then a portion on Covington Water District. Now you can go down here a little bit further and you will see existing top of ditch. This gets narrower, so they outfall, they have an armored overflow, and then they outfall into the existing ditch today that runs along that county portion of the roadway. And so in order to do this type of work, you still have to go through your stormwater manual. You have to justify that design, and then you have to go build it, and then you have to show that it functions. And so it's unclear to me, I think, what the larger concern is, because this swale is built within existing property owned by the property owner, existing right-of-way by the city that will be used for future right-of-way potentially when we redesign Covington Way in the future, and then the portion that the Covington Water District so kindly let them use. And then it just goes right into the normal ditch line. So the stormwater easement that you have before you tonight is, let me go back here because I think the visual, the aerial is much easier to view. Gonna bring it up. So the stormwater easement tonight that you have before you is for covenants regarding the developer's responsibility to take care of their stormwater facilities. So they have to take care of the facility out in front of their building that we talked about, where they found out they had a deficiency. In that Covington, it says you're responsible for maintenance, operation, and care Our stormwater facility folks, Ben and his team, they do annual inspections on that. If they are not meeting those inspections, they get a notice, they have to rectify it. And if they don't do that, then they're in non-compliance with that. And then we go through a code compliance issue. Most of the times developers will get in there and they'll do their mowing, they'll reseed it, they'll take care of it. The other exhibit in that stormwater facility, in that stormwater covenant, right? Because it's not a dedication, it's a covenant. It basically says you're responsible, is for the portion of that offsite stormwater area, which is also mentioned in my blue sheet. That the developer, while they're using public property, the ability to do that is that you have to have a public benefit. And the public benefit here is that they are now responsible for the maintenance and the operation of that ditch line along there. So that is no longer a maintenance responsibility for the city of Covington. And not only that, they upgraded that to the current standards, where before it was a ditch line. Is there any questions on the stormwater? And I'm happy to run through my comments if you would like to give you perspective.
Okay.
But
Beth.
I'm willing to take some questions.
No, do Beth first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second.
Just a really quick question. I'm tracking what you're saying and all of that. But I am curious because I know that that became a mud pit, like, you know, and that's why we put the cinder blocks up because people were parking on it and all the whole thing there. Isn't that going to be eventually part of a road improvement, like considered possibly a traffic circle or something at that juncture or some kind of a turn lane? Does that preclude us from doing that?
No.
Or what would we have to do so that we could?
Yeah, it does not preclude us from doing that because when it comes time for us to build anything, or whether it's Covington Water does it or we do it, then we collect that stormwater that's there and then we reevaluate this. This happens all the time. This happened along 272nd where we had kind of joint systems with Covington Legacy where the Home Depot is. We have some joint systems on the Raising Canes, which you'll be seeing easements around that because now that improvements are coming in, we can bifurcate off that. And so it's really common. I mean, we don't love it, but it's a solution that provided a benefit to us and greater stormwater retention along Covington Way at that location. And then it got the developer as well, what they needed to be compliant.
Would we just take that on then if we decide to build something?
Well,
because now it's a right of way.
Yeah, and there's a covenant there for that, and we're dealing with this with a couple other projects as well. So when that covenant comes up, and let's say you want an easement, then we might have to repeal that covenant or reassess that covenant and decide maybe who does what when. So you know they may come back and have to have that discussion whenever that occurs in the future.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? No, sorry, Jeff. Yes.
No, you're good. So let me go back to this. The agenda item is to authorize the city manager to sign the right-of-way dedication deed, declaration of stormwater covenant, and tree maintenance agreement for Station by Vintage. In this blue sheet, you have on here that first, under the right-of-way, that under recording, the city will assume long-term ownership of the right-of-way while the developer retains responsibility for maintenance of certain private improvements within the dedicated area. You explained that with the, okay. I will skip to the tree. This agreement requires the property owner to implement best management practices to preserve, maintain, and replace trees within designated tree tracts, establishes a minimum maintenance period of 5 years and ongoing obligations, and provides the city the right to access the property for inspection and enforcement. You explained that. So that's in writing in this. Now the covenant assigns responsibility to the property owner for ongoing operation and maintenance of the stormwater facilities, authorizes the city to inspect stormwater facilities to ensure compliance with water quality regulations, and allows the city to perform necessary maintenance if the owner fails to do so with costs recoverable from the owner. So that's in this written as well. So I'm fine moving forward with approving this. Because we are covered with what's written in here.
Christina?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Thank you for the presentation. It showcases once again that our team is excellent and that we do our due diligence and that every property and every development is somewhat, it's different. It's custom. That's the word I was looking for. And if, if we can't find solutions for ongoing development, and as you said, there's always something new that if you've developed anything that as you're working through this in the process, you learn new things about the property. It's a beautiful thing. So thank you for that lovely explanation. I very much enjoyed listening to that. It makes sense to me. There was a problem. We found a solution. It's reasonable. And I would wholeheartedly approve this as well.
Other comments? Just like I have a question.
No, you're fine.
Okay. But did you have one? No. So I just want to make sure I understand correctly. I'm just going to summarize for myself. So Station by Vintage required to do stormwater. I'm just going to talk about the stormwater coming in. Is required to do stormwater management on site. And they were doing that and they built their swale, but found through the process that it wasn't sufficient to address the amount of stormwater that was coming off their site. So they came to us and said, and called it deficient. Came to us and said, is there a solution to building additional swale off-site? And we've got agreements with Station by Vintage, Covington Water, and City of Covington to develop an additional stormwater management system. I guess one question, that hasn't been built yet though, right?
This has all been constructed and
Oh,
it's existing today,
Okay,
yes.
great. And the previous on-site one was considered deficient for the amount of water, but the one with the additional one or the off-site one makes it sufficient now.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. And regardless of whether we own it, Station by Vintage will be responsible for maintaining that for how long?
In perpetuity until something changes and that that covenant needs to be revised.
And I apologize, and I appreciate the question being brought up. I don't remember all of the particulars in the public comment. Was there anything summarized in that? I know the deficiency in the stormwater system was one.
Yeah, just kind of going through the comment or the items that were presented, you can read through them. I'm happy to read them out loud, but kind of starting at the bottom and working your way up. Here you can read them very quickly if you can, but this is a conversation between me and the developer.
Does council know what this document is? This is what the public commenter.
Yeah, this is what the public commenter provided.
To you.
Time to
Yeah.
read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I skimmed it very quickly, but I lived this, so I can give you, I can,
Yeah, we're aware. They all have it. Krista sent it to them.
So this first one talks about the swale issue. You can see where they say, jumping in here with a couple questions, this was more about getting their permit. This is where I say, hey, by the way, we noticed you guys were in the wrong spot. The burden of proof is on the developer. They were asking about when the swell needed to be installed. And I'm like, of course, during the dry month. I mean, this is kind of typical conversations that we went through during this time. And this was in 2022. They got their permits right now. So they're early, right? They're early in development. When you saw that kind of, progression through the IMAP, you see that it was multi-years that they went through this process. This was the last thing to be built because they had discovered that deficiency. And so we kind of talked through it there. Then they bring it back up again. I'm like, you guys need to do a better job on some of your plans. This isn't clear. Can we get some surveys out there? They're following that instructions. They're doing it. We would not have gotten to as-built if they didn't step through these processes. We would still be talking about swell design. So they worked with us. They put their plans together. They're working with our stormwater team. This kind of keeps going upwards. This is where I talk about, about their design over years, outstanding concerns, things that they needed to do before they got certificate of occupancy. And then obviously we're going back and forth on that final design of this. And I mean, you're welcome to read through here and I can answer more questions, but ultimately, and you can see everybody who's on here, it's our entire development team, Public Works, stations responses.
But if I recall, I think one of the issues was about there was some misalignment with property ownership,
Is that,
something like that. And so I don't know for sure what that's referring to, other than maybe when we had to do the swell across the street, so we had to work with multiple property owners. I don't know if you want any further clarification, but we're unclear what that issue is.
Is that something we can ask for?
Yeah,
Get
presumably.
a clarification on the issue? Okay. I guess Baron, did you want to clarify your concerns with?
Overwhelmed by all this at this point. I hear a lot of explanation.
Can you please come up to the microphone?
Mm,
Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mind you, a lot of this verbiage is new to me,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to follow it along as much as you guys can. I'm reading your faces, trying to understand it. And I get you guys want to absolve and take the pay for it and all. I'm just saying, peer review it another day or two, because a lot of the verbiage in it on those emails are shifting blame back and forth. And that's how they're doing development along this corridor. It's gonna happen again. And it's gonna happen again. As long as people are not held accountable, take a little time. Don't just push the development through, push the development. Are you from Covington? Do you care about the water?
Baron, you gotta address us.
I'm trying to understand it all like you guys are.
Yeah.
But like, I just always think vested interest, right? And at the end of it, I don't care about that station by Vintage. I care about Jenkins Creek and the whole bridge she pointed out. She said, that's the county line. That's the creek too. That's the creek. That's the mud pit you described. And what I saw is the whole drainage going out into the mud pit. I'm still trying to understand it all. Okay.
Okay, appreciate it. So, so the way the stormwater and swale system is developed, it's to manage stormwater runoff coming off that facility. It's also a first line of treatment for that material coming off to collect sediment, that sort of thing, which we will be responsible for maintaining, I understand, on a regular basis.
no, we are absolved from the maintenance of that. The developer is held accountable. We do the inspections.
Inspect it.
But but for pulling the sediment out too?
They
Things
do
like-
everything
Okay.
from tip to tail.
And then is it your understanding that it's being built to the level that will protect Jenkins Creek as well?
Yes, because in order to obtain those permits, you have to show that you meet the stormwater manual. And they did that. And then we peer review that to ensure that they did in fact meet the stormwater manual. So in order to get those stormwater permits, you have to be able to show that.
Any other questions or comments on this? Yeah, Jeff.
I'd just like to clarify that in this covenant, it does say that we will follow through, that the property owner does the necessary maintenance. And if we do have to go in there and do it, the costs are recoverable from the owner.
Right.
And that is in this covenant, in perpetuity.
I appreciate that. I think if I'm hearing the concern, it's more about, is it actually going to protect Jenkins Creek? And so, and you're telling me that it's built to the standard, even though it's on two different sites, that it will do that.
That is a requirement of all developers to meet the minimum stormwater standards, which are set by the state of Washington that consider the protection of the environment.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Jeff.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the city manager to sign a statutory warranty deed and real estate excise tax affidavit for the dedication of right-of-way, a declaration of covenant for inspection and maintenance of stormwater facilities and BMPs, and a tree maintenance agreement for the Station by Vintage project file number LU 19-0013 in substantial form as attached.
Second?
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to authorize the city manager to sign a statutory warrant deed and real estate excise tax affidavit for the dedication of a right-of-way, declaration of a covenant for inspection and maintenance of the stormwater facilities and BMPs, and a tree maintenance agreement for the Station by Vintage project, file number LU 19-0013 in substantial form attached. Jeff, you want to speak to your motion?
I appreciate, actually, at first, I appreciate this being brought forward so that everybody can better understand what is going on in this. And Selena, thank you immensely for so quickly getting through and bringing back the answers to this. Considering the concerns that were brought forward, I'm in faith that the city has fully, well, I mean, we're required to follow the Shoreline Act, Stormwater Act that the state sets forward. And I am confident that we can maintain this with that property owner.
Christina?
Yes, thank you. This has been a wonderful learning experience, I think, for all. I'm confident that we have done our due diligence, and on a more personal note, if we have built something in Covington and the regulations when it comes to stormwater are very tight and very high level, and you don't just get away with not meeting or exceeding those, not meeting those regulations. So my conscience is happy. I understand that this is part of the process, and I do believe this has been a wonderful learning experience for many here, and I will gladly approve this.
Anybody else who speak for or against?
Mark has his hand up.
Oh, Mark.
Just briefly, Mayor, sorry to interrupt.
That's all right.
In the motion itself, it's authorizing the city manager to sign a statutory warranty deed. And I would like to clarify that it's signing a right-of-way dedication deed. That's just a term of art, and it's as substantially presented in the form as attached, but I wanted to make that clear for the public and for transparency purposes.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for bringing this up to council tonight so that we could have a thorough discussion and further understand, the impact of developments to our community, and confirm that there is specific standards in place to protect Jenkins Creek, the wildlife that live there, and greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
If we don't approve this, what's the impact at this time?
Then we have a constructed infrastructure that the developer has not obtained city covenants for. And so our ability to go in and inspect those, all the rights that the covenants provide us, we probably wouldn't have those.
Okay.
And this is also a step for them to, as they go through their final punch list which is the punch list is what we use to measure that they've met all the conditions of the permit. This is a permit condition that they can't get any bonds back until such time.
Okay.
And I anticipate the developer would also probably come and talk to council as well.
So if I understand correctly, passing this would actually give us the ability to inspect and regulate those current swales.
Passing this protects
Yeah.
the environment and
Okay.
Jenkins Creek.
Yeah. Beth?
Again, I guess I have to reiterate that we appreciate the public getting involved, and if there is a concern, bringing it up to us. I don't know how many times we've ever put a consent item on to the same day agenda item to pivot so quickly and have such a thorough report on that. And I will say, if there's anyone on the dais, and I'm probably one of the only, well, everybody knows one of the reasons why I'm here is because of the environment and making sure that we maintain the beauty and we protect our natural spaces. I've had the city manager come with me out to check trees that were planted for a development agreement. So I take this stuff very seriously, as do many of us on the council, if not all of us. So I appreciate the explanation and thanking you all for trying to find that balance between development and protecting the environment that we care about so much.
Anybody else? Speak for or against, okay. It's been moved and seconded to authorize the city manager to sign a statutory warrant deed and real estate excise tax affidavit for the dedication of the right-of-way, a declaration of a covenant for inspection and maintenance of stormwater facilities and BMPs, and a tree maintenance agreement for the station by Vintage Project, file number LU 19-0013 in substantial form as attached. Oh, Mark, thank you.
Mayor, that this is to sign the right-of-way dedication deed, not the statutory warranty deed. So I just want to make that clarification in the motion.
So do I need to restate that, even though it says?
No, you can just, I think if you just say that it's to sign a right-of-way dedication deed and not a statutory warranty deed, that'll be plenty.
Okay, so the motion is to sign a statutory right-of-way deed?
Just
Sorry.
a right-of-way dedication deed.
Right-of-way dedication deed. Yeah.
There, that's perfect. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Well, thank you for that. We are. Oh, no, that's perfect. I appreciate it. I've got to show the help I can get. Okay, we're now up to future agenda items. Our next, I had it in front of me, but I don't know what I did with it. I don't know when is our next meeting? Yeah, sorry.
Sean.
It's on the 28th, and the agenda is scant compared to this one. So is council have any additional agenda items they want to add? Anything they'd like to mention? Beth?
Okay, there's other conversation going on, sorry.
Yeah. Did you want to add anything about this time?
No.
Okay.
No, I think.
All right, so we'll see everyone on the 28th. We're now up to council staff comments, and we'll start with Adam.
Nothing for me tonight.
Okay. Ethan.
Hi, Mayor and Council, nothing for me tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Don.
Just shout out to Selena Goldstar.
Yeah. Selena.
Nothing further from me tonight, council. Thank you.
Casey.
Nothing for me tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Regan.
I'll, to preserve time, I'll send those items out.
Okay. Mark.
I have no report, but there is an executive session to consider real estate acquisition pursuant to RCW 4230-110 sub 1 sub little b.
Okay. How long do you think we'll take for that?
15 minutes.
Okay, we'll get to that. Krista.
I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Christina.
This Friday, we will be hopefully adopting the skip plan for 2027. And I will report back.
Okay.
Nothing else for me. Thank you for an excellent meeting.
Riley.
Thank you. Trying to keep it short. Maker's Market was great. There were so many questions by engaged citizens, and it was an honor to answer just a few of them. I also surveyed Jenkins Creek Park a little bit on my off time this weekend, and I found a shopping cart in a ditch that I reported to Regan, and that's been taken care of, so that's wonderful. I just noticed that there is different, one of our upper viewing areas has a lot of garbage around it, and the trash can is a little bit off. I'm wondering if we could just move it, but I'll get with someone directly offline about that. And then lastly, I'm going to try to attend the ribbon cutting for the new orthodontics office in Covington on Friday, depending on my work schedule. Thank you.
See you then. Beth.
Yes, great makers market, a lot of fun. And then we also had some of us headed over to the post office to do the Stamp Out Hunger, help with collecting and sorting the food that came off the postal trucks from the food drive. Gosh, where to begin? I will be at the ribbon cutting on Friday. Also, As many of you know, we've got a recent domestic violence.
Homicide.
Yep. And so I took the opportunity to reach out to Foster Champs because that's an organization that's engaged with the victim volunteered with them. And so I'll be having a conversation with them on Friday. They are holding a besides a GoFundMe and a wish list for items for the children. There will be a benefit dinner honoring Jody's life and supporting her children at Gabriella's Restaurant on Thursday, May 28th from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And we're also looking to see if we can help support that through the Purple Light Nights campaign. I'll have more information. It's all obviously going to depend. It was such a shock to everybody that they're still processing what's what happened. And so we want to be respectful of people that were directly impacted by that, even though as a community, it pretty much touches all of us. So any more news on that, I'll let you all know. And finally, pick tomorrow night. You all have the email from Regan. The three main items that we're going to be talking about is the discussion on the Sound Transit Enterprise Initiative. We're still drafting a joint letter from SCA cities, but the idea again is to make sure that we hold the Sound Transit Authority accountable to the original project plans that were brought forward, and making sure those are complete before they, for lack of a better word, scope creep into other areas, because people have been paying into the RTA for a long time and they deserve to have those projects worked on as a priority. And then the sewer rate increase proposed by King County. Again, the letter that we're signing on to is that while we all understand the need to upgrade infrastructure and a lot of the costs that they're associating with are from aging infrastructure, a 12.75% increase in sewer rates throughout the county is quite substantial. And so we're trying to advocate to make sure that we're doing whatever we can to cost save, because not only does the county do that, but we have city infrastructure and municipalities that need to help take care of that too. So trying to be mindful of that. And then we'll get some additional information on the housing initiative. They're looking at potentially proposing a tax levy, which would go to the ballot to the people, but in 2027. So a few of those items. So if anyone has feedback before tomorrow night, give it to Regan or Krista, and they can, I'm sure to represent it at the meeting tomorrow.
Okay, you don't need consensus from us on these?
I mean, if you want consensus as presented, if you had an opportunity to read it, it's not anything super earth shattering, but if anyone sees something that, or has any more thoughts they want me to represent, I can do that as well.
So regardless, these are gonna go forward unless we object.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have any major changes. So, okay.
And we've spent so much time on that sewer letter. Oh my gosh, I can't believe. So yeah. Okay.
Anything else?
That'll be it for me.
Okay. Debbie.
Thank you. I will say that the South County Area Transportation Board is also in the process of writing a similar letter to South Transit to say, stick with what the voters approved the money for. Don't go off, making up your own script. So today I was on the Youth Crisis Care Center call, and Kirkland, I believe, is the first, if not the only, so they'd be the first, right? Crisis Care Center out there of the 4 subsections of King County. They have employed 180 FTEs, and that's providers all in. 95% of the patients that they see live within 6 miles. So they're seeing that it really does cover their area. More importantly, 40% of their clients coming in are from Kirkland. So it really covers their base. For the South region of King County, MultiCare has been selected as the operator, I think, plans to be finished up by 2026. And I don't know where that they are looking at Covington. That's it. Also, yeah, Makers Market was great, interacting with residents about the MPD, got some good feedback.
Okay.
Ryan 9, the forum meets this week and we'll be reviewing the upcoming funding package. If folks remember, we did get some money for that property in the last round. I'll send updates as to what's funded after it makes its way through the forum. We're also going to get a presentation on the Lower Duwamish Watershed Superfund site. I don't know why, but I love a good pollution cleanup story. I have since middle school. So I am looking forward to that presentation. I also, and I think I saw Beth on there this morning, attended the Domestic Violence Initiative call this morning. That's a regional initiative in partnership with King County and the prosecuting attorney's office. Again, you know, I do feel, not just given the recent event of a husband admitting to stabbing his wife 48 times while their 3 young children were present, but clearly we have a domestic violence issue. It is very prominent based on the data here in South King County. I am going to see if I can get the content and forward that to you, Regan, in case maybe Human Services needs to be making an appearance at these quarterly forums. The data being collected is very insightful. And the work is inspiring that these organizations are doing. And then lastly, I'm going to go to that National Incident Management System, NIMS. I'm going to the daytime one. So if anyone's going, I don't stay up this late usually, man. It's way past my bedtime. So if anyone wants to carpool, I think it's the Tukwila one on the 27th. Yeah. So anyway, that's it.
Thank you. Jeff?
Last week, I attended the chamber webinar on the 5th, talking about change and in your businesses, provide a lot of feedback. I also attended the Sound City's leadership meeting on Wednesday. Had a great time at the morning meetup with ballet. And they were testing how many people could stay on their tippy toes.
Oh.
I did not pass. And then the Makers Market was extremely busy. Debbie and I answered a lot of questions about the Covington Parks and Recreation District. And then I took the time to walk and talk to every vendor, thank them, and ask them about everything that if they had any comments, changes, or negative, positive feedback that they'd like to send. That's it.
Thank you. I know it's getting late. I'll try and go quickly. Last RFA meeting was canceled. Next one is next Wednesday. I did attend the Puget Sound Regional Fire Authority Teddy Bear Clinic along Ethan and Gabrielle and Connie. RFA gave out about 400 bears to the first 400 kids, and they get a checkup on those, and they get some information on fire safety. They also checked anyone else's stuffed animals they wanted while they were there. So we took the opportunity to talk to dozens of people about the Metropolitan Park District. Overwhelming consensus with people are supportive of it. So I think that's, I think it's encouraging. Attended the Rotary dinner that night, which was really well done and fun. If you haven't already, I did a ride along with the chief last week. That was very illuminating and educational as well, to get a different kind of view of the city and how our police department is it's soft. Anyway, they're doing a great job out there. I really want to just pass along my thank you to you and kudos to your staff. It was, like I said, it was educational and enlightening. I too attended the SCA Youth Crisis Center call, and I think as we get closer, and Debbie, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're looking for letters of support from cities as well on these facilities. So we may want to talk about either the council or the city writing a letter in support of those. And then finally, I attended the South Sound Mayor's meeting call today. Two big items they had on there. They had a representative from CN that's kind of the local promotional group for FIFA. And they talked about all the events they have up and through the World Cup. They just basically are telling people right now that downtown Seattle in June is going to be almost impassable. So if you've got other ways to get down there, they encourage you to take mass transit or something else, but it's not going to be easy for your own private vehicle. They also did say they have a community calendar that they're willing to put on their community or their calendar, anything soccer related that communities are doing. So they were looking for viewing parties that other cities are doing, but if we've got a soccer related event, I think they'd be willing to put that up too. I did ask for the slide deck from CN and they're going to send that to me shortly, and I'll send it to you, Regan, and we can send it around on. But there's a lot of things going on. Tacoma's going to have a sanctioned viewing party, Seattle, and a number of other cities. So there's plenty of opportunity to see the World Cup. And then the other thing they talked about was the King County Homeless Regional Authority and their difficulties with their accounting. And the message out of that is SCA is looking to provide input to the King County executive on what cities need and what strategies work here. So they're looking for our input when they go to the King County executive. And so I put them in touch with Darren to basically say, you know, if you want to reach out and get some real world feedback on what we have found in Covington Works for our unhoused community, that they should talk to him. But I just wanted to let you know that was on the agenda today too, Regan. So
Thank you.
Yep.
We should extend the meeting by motion per council rules.
Okay. How long?
You don't have to state
Okay.
the time, just
Okay.
have to state that the motion that
Okay.
to extend the meeting past 10.
I make a motion to extend the meeting past 10 PM. Due to our-
Second. Sorry, I'm tired.
It's been moved and seconded to extend the meeting past 10. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Who was the second on that?
Debbie.
Oh.
Was that Debbie?
Provisional
You're provisional. Okay.
restroom break.
Okay, so we are now up, we're now up to our second public comment period. Oh, man. Speakers will state their name, organization, and whether they are a Covington resident. Comments are directed to the city council, not the audience or staff. Comments are to be related to city business. Comments are not intended for conversation or debate and are limited to 4 minutes per speaker. For attendees participating by Zoom, click the raise hand button. For attendees participating by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand. Once the city grants permission to speak, press unmute in Zoom or dial *6 to unmute by phone. Is anyone in the council chambers wishes to address the council? Yeah, anyone online wishing to address the council? Okay, close this second public comment period. We do have an executive session, which we are scheduled to go for 15 minutes. I'm gonna say we'll be back by 10:15 and no further action will be taken. Okay, oh, look, you wanna run to the restroom?
Yes.
Can we actually
Yeah.
take 5 minutes for a break and then we'll come back at 10, we'll be back at 10:20. That'll work? Okay, all right. All right. Yeah, oh yeah. Okay, we're back from executive session. The council is taking no further action and this meeting is adjourned at 10:20.